Meet one of my best friends, Jose Chavez, JC from the Kidd Kraddick Morning Show. He's an amazing radio personality and an incredibly successful radio host. But JC came from nothing. He took us back to his childhood, growing up in Mexico in poverty and coming to the US not being able to speak English. He was bullied, abused, and had a tough childhood. At one point, after quitting school, he was living out of his truck when he met his girlfriend, Kinsey, now wife, with 2 beautiful kids. He talks about these life-altering moments, what it meant to have Kinsey by his side as a champion and a cheerleader, what it was to meet Kidd Kraddick, become part of radio show history. He took us through the raw emotions of what it meant to lose Kidd, what that meant in his life, and what it meant for him to move forward and to heal from that wound. Jose is an incredible storyteller, and you're gonna feel this episode right here. Tune in, check it out.
This is Life After podcast. JC Chavez, take one.
Boom! Hey, sir. My man.
What's up?
It was a good one. We're going to hang out. We just got introduced by our daughters.
We did.
So let's talk about how we met.
Okay.
I'm stoked that you're on the show, dude. This is going to be so fun. Like, we got all the things to talk about.
No pressure being the last one of the season, though, dude.
Capping off season 1, Life After Pod.
I spilled coffee on my shirt, so if you guys could not focus on that, that'd be
Work
great.
that out. AI is good and all that stuff.
That'd be awesome.
Dude, we both were playing in a Celebrity All-Star flag football game at AT&T Stadium.
Yes.
Like 10 years ago. And, we were both, we're still in good shape, but we were like, at that time, we thought we still had it.
I think I was in my early 30s still.
Yeah.
So I was still feeling myself.
We came ready to go.
Yep.
And we didn't have a real elite level of talent around us. It was pretty much you and me.
Yep.
We recognized each other pretty quickly. And I had just moved to Dallas and being on the West Coast, like I didn't know Kidd Kraddick Morning Show and I didn't know the radio show and stuff. And I knew that you were there probably because you were somebody, but I was like, oh man, this guy's just a homie. And then we were down to the last play, like last seconds, and we was tied up. And I was playing quarterback, and I remember seeing you cutting across the back of the end zone at AT&T Stadium, and I threw as far and as hard as I possibly could, the classic Roger Staubach Hail Mary, and sent it off. Waiting. And my guy lays out, dude, full on.
Came down with it.
Takes it.
I honestly thought it was going to go out of bounds. And I remember thinking, they called it a celebrity football game. They mistitled it because it was a celebrity football tournament. And I
thought we had one game.
We caught that. I caught that ball and I thought we were done and we could go home. And I think we celebrated. And I think if it would have been just that, we maybe wouldn't have connected as much. Right? Like it was a cool ending to it. But yeah. I think the fact that we had to play another game after that, and then we won that one, and then we played another one, I think that gave our wives time to get to know each other in the stands. So when we got done, our daughters were playing.
Yeah.
You and I had that Hail Mary connection. I think some of us sports just will always bring people together.
For sure. And it was cool because the girls, my oldest is now 12, yours is about to be 12.
Yeah.
So they were like, almost 2 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kinsey and Sarah got to hang out in the stands. And then afterwards, we kind of like went through it because we didn't prepare thinking it was a game, right? It was a tournament. So we were starting cramping up.
David cramped out after the third game. Halfway through, he cramped out. He was done. And then I cramped out shortly right after that.
Yeah.
And then we lost. And we should have. To high schoolers. Yeah. An NFL player and me.
Listen, at that point, I was capped, bro. I was it, man. I had nothing left in the tank. So that was cool, man. It was one of those things where we just naturally sort of like in the season of life and otherwise a lot of similar backgrounds. It was like, dude, we just became best homies.
Yeah.
So fast forward a decade, man. It's been crazy. It's been super cool. I mean, getting to know you, obviously getting to know you as Jose, not as JC. But also understanding, the persona that you are on the radio and the success that you've had, on the Kidd Kraddick show. Like, I want to kind of go back to the Jose story first, though.
Okay.
Growing up in Mexico.
Yeah.
Poor. Dad wasn't around. Kind of take us to just childhood. Give us kind of like, what you would say stands out the most as you think about, migrating to the U.S. and just your early childhood.
So I may not appear Mexican, but I am. I was born in Mexico, and sometimes you're dealt cards from the beginning where you're going to have to start clawing. And I mean, I was born to a teenage mom. My mom was 18 when I was born. My father, I believe, was 15 when I was born, but he walked out. He was nowhere to be seen just because you're 15 years old. He didn't really want a kid.
Yeah.
His family maybe wanted me, and there was altercations between my mom's side and his side, which caused just something to break and just pushed him away. And I believe that was my grandma. So it was just me, my teenage mom, her teenage brother, my uncle, who became like my father and brother at the same time, and my grandma. I grew up in a very angry household. My grandma was angry because her husband had left her for another woman, started a new family, had 3 kids with her. So she was always a very angry person. And I think that's what led to the demise of my father possibly being in my life, just because she was so adamant that if my father didn't marry my mom, you are not going to see this kid. And she had the power to do it because she was that tough.
Staunch.
Just staunch, man. And well, we didn't have much, but I remember I didn't notice that. You don't know you're poor when you're a kid. My grandma did her best to spoil me. I bet my mom did as well. And my uncle was just the ultimate big brother, man. He was just, I was, wherever Ricky was, I was right next to him.
What was the age? Because he was like 15.
He was 15. So he was my father's, they were best friends. They were going to school together and they lived right down the street from each other. So I found out when I met my real dad that my father all along was literally 200 yards away from me. My grandparents, my aunts, my family was that close for the first 5 years of my life. My mom then started dating my dad that I grew up with when I was probably like 2. And I don't have very many memories of that. I have one memory where I remember my grandma, the houses were small in Mexico, but most of them were 2-story. And I remember standing at the top of the stairs next to the bathroom and I was wearing a Batman costume. And I remember my dad walking in and I distinctly remember calling him Mi Alex because his name's Alejandro. And he's just been a constant in my life my whole time. Now we moved to the US abruptly. I was happy in school. My mom had gotten me into a really nice Catholic school because she was a teacher there. She became a teacher. And so I was able to go to this school. And at this school, there was kids that were doing telenovelas and kids that had pretty successful parents. And so I was just thrown into this. I was always thrown into things, just like into the deep end, go float. So I was in a really nice school. I was doing well. And one day my mom just said, "Hey, we're moving to the United States. We're out." And I didn't.
Did you know much about the U.S.? Was there like...
No.
Yeah.
No, I just know my mom married my dad when I was 5.
It just happened.
They got married and I was like, okay, cool. Now we're a family. So we're going to move into, my uncle had a little downstairs area at his house. So we moved into, not my uncle that I grew up with, my grandma's brother. So he let us have this little 1-bedroom, 1-bath kitchen place. My bedroom was in the kitchen, but I still remember feeling happy. And the day my mom told me we were moving to the States, I remember feeling confused. I was 8. And I remember feeling a little bit like, why? I had no idea why we were moving.
Yeah.
And 1 week later, we sold everything. Just had a little sale and neighbors from the neighborhood came by and bought stuff. And next thing we know, we're on a plane. I still had no idea where we're going. I just remember looking at my mom and going, where are we going?
Yeah.
And where am I going to live? And she goes, we're going to a place called San Diego. I said, cool. That sounds Mexican. I like it. I remember landing in San Diego. I remember on the freeway. I remember how different the roads were. I remember looking up and seeing Los Angeles. I don't know how many 100 miles away or just whatever. And thinking that was her maiden name. Mm-hmm. And thinking to myself, that made me feel like home.
Yeah.
That's my mom's maiden name, Angeles.
Yeah.
So if there's angels watching over me, I grew up kind of Catholic, so that was big for me.
Yeah.
And then we drove into the ghettoest neighborhood ever. I remember driving in and going like, okay, I remember my neighborhood.
Yeah, in Mexico.
And it was like a lot of stucco and like tin roofs. And I remember stray dogs outside and there was trash everywhere. I remember that. I remember knowing, okay, this was nicer, but different. And we walked in and we met with this mutual friend my mom had. And she was really kind. Her name was Patricia as well, Patty. And she had a little boy named Christopher. And my mom said, we're going to be staying with them. And I walk into this apartment and it is, 600 square feet. I don't know. It's tiny. They're tiny apartments. And I go, where are we going to sleep? Where's my bedroom? Where's my bed? On the floor. So we stayed there for a few months. And then my dad started getting jobs at fast food joints. I had a couple. My mom got a job at a yacht club.
Yep.
And we got an apartment 2 doors down, tiny apartment. But now I finally had a room. My room in Mexico was a kitchen. This one was at least a bedroom. So it was my first bedroom with my mom and my dad. So I remember feeling like that was a step up.
Yeah.
I remember the smell of paint. I remember thinking, we're rich because it's new paint. They painted it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to school and that's where hell began.
So you didn't speak English?
I spoke zero English.
So your mom makes this decision, right? You guys are in the States. I'm sure, looking back, it's they did that for opportunity.
Yeah.
But, for you, you're confused and they didn't prepare you for what was to come.
No, and I don't think they could. I mean, my mom was born in the U.S., adopted back by a Mexican family and moved to Mexico. But she had no idea. She just thought she was born in Mexico. So all she knew was Mexico. Funny thing is my mom was an English teacher. So I don't know what pulled her towards American lifestyles, but she was an English teacher in a Mexican school. My school was called Instituto Inglés Mexicano. It was English Institute, Mexican English Institute. So it was, they taught us a little English, but not enough to like show up and go have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah. Like know what the teacher said.
And when you take a kid, and I was blonde, man, you saw my daughter when the podcast started. That's the color my hair was.
A little towhead Mexican.
Dude, I was blonde. And so I think when they took me to the school, the principal and the teachers said, it's a white boy, let's put him. They just threw me into an English regular class. And I remember sitting there, and the only thing I remember I remember thinking, this guy's huge. It was an American male dude. And he just started writing on the chalkboard. Couldn't tell you what he said because I didn't understand it. Yeah. But he just started writing in cursive. They were doing the letter E, and he was just doing E. And I remember him looking at the class and everybody looking, and then they started looking down, and these kids were freaking just doing their E's. And I looked around and I said, okay, I already know how to write in cursive because the school I went to was dope. And the math they were doing was way behind. I was a grade ahead of these kids. So I just started going.
Yeah.
And I go all the freaking way down. I remember this little dude next to me goes, whoa. And I look over and he's telling the first line with a slow ass ease, dude. And I just looked at him. And so the teacher comes over and he said something. And I just remember going, what? Okay.
Yeah.
And he looked at me. I think he thought I was mentally handicapped. I think something's wrong with this boy. He's deaf maybe because I wasn't communicating. So he takes me to the office and there was a Hispanic lady there. And she goes, I remember her saying my name, Jose. And then when she said my name, she finally it clicked and she said something in Spanish. And she goes, ¿Hablas English? I said, that means, do you speak English?
Yeah.
I go, no. And she goes, oh, and she turned to them and she said, blah, 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 blah. They took me straight to a different classroom and I got put in an ESL classroom with this woman named Miss Martin, who was like a little godsend for me. But
I'm sure there was some stuff in the neighborhood though, right?
Yes.
Like from a bullying perspective. Because if you look white, right, you don't look Mexican.
Nope.
And you're in a situation that's is those around you don't look like them. Like that.
I don't look like anybody. It was a predominantly black and Mexican neighborhood. It's the North Park in San Diego. And this was back in the 90s. And North Park in San Diego in the 90s was hood. Yeah. Like I'd never been around gang members. I had never seen black people, dude. Never even seen a black person in person until I went to school and I tell people this all the time and they look at me funny. Like I felt like they were celebrities. I was like, oh my God, black person like in front of me, dude, this is dope.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about that. I remember thinking that. And after my first day of school, which was so crazy and so just like I was thrown in so many different directions. At the end of the school day, I just remember going out with my fanny pack. I had some quarters in there and they had a little table. I think they were like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, and they had a table and they're selling popcorn. And I love palomitas, dude. I love me some popcorn. So I walked up, I saw 25. I was like, I just pulled out first thing. They go, yep, that was a quarter. I didn't know. So there you go, 25, easy. Got my bag. I start walking and there was a KFC near my school. So you walk and I walked about 100 yards and there was a KFC before I go into the alley that I walked home. And I see these black boys, and they looked at me and they said something. And I go, okay, maybe they're trying to befriend me. And again, to me, I'm so excited because I want black friends, bro. This is like, I've never had a black friend. I've only seen Mexican kids in my whole life. Not even Asian kids, bro. Even the Asian kids, I was like, damn, Asian kids. So the black kids are like saying something. So I kind of walked over to them and they start mimicking me, like mocking me. And I remember thinking like, I could tell they're mocking because of their faces. And one of the kids just basically said something. And I was like, ah. And he wrapped up and like grabbed my popcorn. So give me that popcorn. He said popcorn. And so when he said popcorn, I was like, popcorn. I said, this is my popcorn. He goes, huh? This is my popcorn? I remember him doing that. It was my popcorn. Dude, I started feeling rage for the first time because they took something from me. I paid for that. That was my money. It was my food. And so I'm like sitting there and I'm like, it's my popcorn. And I'm like yelling at this kid. And then I just get popped just from the side. Pop. I remember getting hit. Boom. I had no idea. It felt like a rock. I know it's a fist from now on. But I remember just falling and seeing the kid that hit me right next to me, and just the kid gets over me and just kicks me. So all I knew to do was curl up. And they're just kicking and laughing. I remember them laughing, and I took my ass whooping and I just poured my popcorn on me. I got kicked in the head. I got back of the head. They ripped my sweater, and I had like one sweater and 5 shirts. So that was like one of my wardrobe at the time. And so I remember getting up and thinking, I hate America. I just freaking hate it here. And I walked home through the alley, and I remember the dudes that were in the alley looking at me like, oh, he got his ass kicked. Like, I looked homeless probably. And I just got home and my mom was there and she looked at me. She goes, what happened? And I said, I don't like it here. I want to go back.
Were you mad at her?
No, not her. I was just mad. I don't know who I was mad at, but I was just pissed. About a week later, I was at the apartment. Some of the kids would stay. Dude, I would get out of there and go. I would leave as fast as I could. And I remember I got home fast one day and I was just in the front courtyard of the apartments, and it was gated and had like the sharp ends at the top. So I felt safe in there. That's the only place I stayed. There was no other kid to play with. So I'd be out there with a ball bouncing it up against the fence. And these kids, same kids, were walking by, but this time they had a girl. And I remember looking at them, and they made fun of me every day. They knew they had my number. And I remember the girl and I locked eyes. She walked over to the gate.
So white girl?
Black girl.
Black girl.
And she like motioned for me. And I said, okay, maybe she's nice. So I walked over to her and she goes, come here. I got closer and I had longer hair, and she grabbed my hair and she went, boom, and slammed me up against and let go and ripped out some of the hair. And I looked at her and I remember like my eyes started welling up with tears, but I was told, you don't cry in front of bullies. So I felt my eyes welling up, and I just wanted to show her I wasn't scared. So I just stood there and I was like confused. And she just hawked one and went spit on my face. And she turned and started laughing, and those boys were laughing. They walked away. And I walked inside and my dad was in there. And he goes, what happened? I was like, a girl spit on me. He goes, go wash your face. That was it. I said, okay. A month later, my dad went to a thrift shop and bought me my first bike. And we went out, and I hated going outside. That was that fence. And I remember him going, go ride your bike. And I said, by myself? He goes, yeah, go ride it by yourself.
You knew what was out there waiting for you.
And I'd been there for a few. I had no friends. I had a couple Polish friends at school that I talked to, but they spoke Polish. I spoke Spanish. So he goes, right, just go check it out. Go try it out. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if like around the block or just the end of the street. He goes, right around the block. You'll be fine. So I said, okay. I start riding and I make that first, and I'm so scared. I remember feeling so scared. And I make that first right, nothing. Just nothing. Cool. I feel good. Now I feel a little bit lighter. Make that second right to go into the long way of the back end of where we lived. And I see a group of kids playing. I keep riding. And I get close to them. And they went to my school. I know who they are. They were my grade, a couple grades. And I get to them and they're sitting there playing like baseball on the street. And then one of the kids stops me. He goes, oh, you just got a bike? And I go, yeah. He goes, let me ride it. And I go, let you ride it. He goes, no. He goes, let me ride it. And he grabs me, gets me off the bike.
Jackson.
Gets on the bike. starts laughing and just drives off and goes to the left, and
That was it.
he's gone.
That was his bike.
And I just got up. Nobody did anything. There was a grown up there, nothing. And I walked home, and my dad was still standing outside of our apartment complex.
But now you have no bike.
And he goes, "Where's your bike?" And I said, I forgot the kid's name, but I said, "So-and-so stole it. He goes to my school. I know where he lives. Let's go." And my dad looked at me. I remember feeling like my dad was going to protect me. And he goes, "No." I go, "What? They stole from me. He pushed me. These kids have been beating me up for months. Let's go get my bike back." I remember like, "Dad, let's go." And he goes, "No, it's not going to be worth it. Whatever those dudes do, they do it all the time. It's not going to be worth it." And I just had to eat that.
Dang.
But I think that was the moment that it clicked for my parents that we had to get out of there. And this is where the trouble stopped and it got lighter. We moved. My dad went searching for jobs and we moved into the suburbs, got a job in an apartment complex. And I remember going to the school and that was a little more fair. These kids were kind. And I still had black kids and Asian kids. It was predominantly Asian kids, white kids, Mexican kids. And where I went from a neighborhood where I was not accepted by the Mexican kids because I was blonde and the black kids I don't know why they didn't like me, to this neighborhood where my first day of school, I walked in just a shell, just expecting to get beat up, expecting to get made fun of. And his name's Nick Olson. I'll never forget this kid's name. The first thing this dude said to me was not, "Give me your popcorn." It was, "So, how fast are you?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "I don't know, pretty fast." He goes, "We're going to race at recess."
Yeah.
So I remember this dude challenged me to a race first day of school. We raced. I beat him. He got mad, but not mad to where we fought.
Yeah,
like just
yeah,
mad. Like I
yeah.
could tell he was pissed off.
Yeah.
Then I raced this other dude named TJ Ratuya, who they said was the fastest kid in school. TJ beat me, but barely. And from then on, it was like I had friends. And I went back to my apartment complex where my dad worked. And I met kids in my apartment complex. And that's where I started developing my friendships. Some of those guys that I'm still friends with. So it was just a change of scenery from just 30 miles south to north that I went from nothing to I felt like I had it all.
Talk about even with that, shift and the opportunity to not have to be dealing with, constant fights, constant bullying and otherwise. But what was going on at home and what was going on in your life also, right, as a young kid? Because again, like the life-altering moments, moving, being ripped from Mexico and then moving to the U.S. and then having to endure what you did as an early kid that had no preparation or priming for what was about to ensue. Then you end up in a place where you think it's getting better, but then there's a whole host of other things that's going on.
Yeah. I look at my family now and I see how my wife and I are as parents. We are very present.
Yeah.
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I was often, since I was 5 years old, left alone. There was no money for babysitters. There was nobody to watch me. So my mom would leave me. I remember she would give me a bowl of eggs in Mexico. And here you go. I'm going to go to work. I'll be back. You cannot leave this bed unless you got to go pee. And then you sit right back down on this bed and she had the TV on. I didn't have parents. I didn't have that drive. I didn't have that nourishment. I remember the day I tried to kiss my mom and give her like a kiss I was probably 5 and she pushed me away. So there was no hugging. There was no kissing. There was no affection. And that went for my dad as well. Cause looking back at it, I wasn't his. So I think maybe he felt awkward with that. Now,
And you were desperate for it.
I was desperate for touch. I was desperate for love. I was connection. And in the States, it got worse just because they had to work even more. And I remember thinking and looking at other families and going like, damn,
That's what I want.
I want that. I want my mom to love me. I want my dad to like be proud of me. That's when I started noticing I was pretty good at sports and dads would come up to me and like fangirl. Like, "Oh my God, Jose, you're so good." I remember thinking like, okay, why don't I get this from my mom and dad? I'm like, what is up with that? I want that. I also became a very angry kid because as you get older, you start realizing things that happened to you as a kid shouldn't have happened. Now, when you ask me, was I mad that my mom moved me from Mexico to the U.S.? I said no, because she got me away from a monster. So started when I was 5 years old, my mom took me to her best friend's house, and her best friend had a younger brother, who's I think around my uncle's age, maybe a little bit older. And he started taking advantage of me at 5 years old, started doing things to me and making me do things every time we went to that house, because he knew how to get these things from a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so it became to where my mom even said that she remembers I went from being a really good student to, they put me in therapy and they had no idea what was going on. And even in therapy, I didn't say what happened.
Did he threaten you that if you said it?
It started with, I wanted a firefighter hat and he had one and he goes, I'll give you this, but you got to do this. And don't tell anybody, because if you do, your mom will get hurt. And I was very protective of my mom. Your grandma will get hurt. So every time we go to it started to like when my mom and I remember having fights with my mom when I was like 7, going like, I don't want to go to her house. I don't want to. And she'd be like, well, you can't stay here. Your grandma doesn't want you home alone. And we would get into fights, like fights. And I would go over there and she would go play, go upstairs with, no, what? It's fine. Just go. And he would look at me with this look of like, shut the fuck up. And I would quiet and I just march up there knowing exactly what was going to happen. So when my mom told me we were moving to the States, I was confused, but alleviated, because that stopped.
Yeah.
When I got to middle school is when I started realizing
the impact.
I know I'm freaking pissed.
That's where that anger
was coming from, bro.
Your power was taken.
I had all these things that I wanted. I had the friends finally. I had the kids that stopped picking on me. I was living in a nice area, but I was angry because we took sex ed. And that was it. That's where that light bulb went off.
All that up.
And you pushed it. I pushed it down. I just shook it up like a soda can. I just kept that lid shut. And I remember thinking, all right, what I did as a 5-year-old that was done to me was gay. But I like girls. I want to kiss girls. In fact, I think it pushed me to be overly sexual at a young age.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to prove to myself, you're not gay.
Yeah.
Because this man made you do things, but I didn't want to do it. And that's when it clicked. And I thought, okay, how am I going to take this anger out on somebody? And that's when, like middle school, that's when I started picking fights. I would want to go out to the strip mall and I'd see a kid. And if you looked at me funny, hey, let's go to the back.
Yeah.
It's just, I wanted to fight.
You were finding a way to feel powerful and to show that you couldn't be messed with, because previously, right? Like, again, look, me and you, I mean,
power struggle.
I get it, bro. I endured a similar thing at 10 years old, and sports and anger were the best way that I could channel that and feel powerful.
Yeah. It was that. And it was just, I wanted to like a man, because I came from, my uncle and his friends were all macho dudes. They were always out fighting and stuff. And so fighting to me was the equivalent of showing your manhood. And so I was like, okay, they can't think I'm gay if I'm just fighting people. So I would do that. I remember I got in trouble one time because a kid called me gay and I didn't push him. I didn't do nothing. I just punched him. He called me gay. It wasn't because I was butthurt. It was because he triggered me. And that's when I started realizing I'm getting out of control. I don't know how to fix this. Everything I do, no matter how many girls I hook up with or date, it doesn't go away. It's just constantly right here. And I'm the only one that knows it. But if I tell people, they're going to judge me, or I'm going to be broken, or my guy friends aren't going to want to do anything to do with me if I tell them that this happened to me as a kid.
Yeah.
So created this really, really rough internal battle that kind of triggered my, do I want to be alive? Thoughts.
Some suicidal ideations started coming in.
Yeah, they start coming in. And while sports was awesome, it's a great outlet. If you've got physical pain or mental pain, it's great. But I didn't feel comfortable enough to talk to anybody. I didn't have that closeness with my parents. I didn't have my uncle there because he lived in Mexico still. So I just internalized everything and became the angriest kid ever. And one of the moments that I noticed that pushed my mom away was when I was in 5th grade. I was told to protect my family no matter what. And while I didn't feel like that connection with them, I still protected. This kid in my apartment complex called my mom fat. And I told him to stop. And he said, well, your mom's fat. And I just walked over to him. And the boys all started to fight. And so they were all in my ear like, punch him. So I walked up and said, say my mom's fat again. And he said, your mom's fat. And I clocked him right in the face, right? I'm punching him. And this kid didn't fight back. He got down and he started crying and ran home. And I go, cool. That's it. Now I'm viewed as a man and everybody's cool. And I got props from my boys at the playground. And I went home and I felt myself. And then the door knocked. And I'm in my room and I just waited and I hear a little talking female voice. And then I hear my mom, Jose Roberto. And I walk out and it's that kid with his mom, who was way fatter than my mom.
Just making a
by the way, like I could have also, but I didn't take it there. So I just want to throw that out there. I could have I was like, bro, my mom fat, dog. So and my mom, and she goes, why did you punch John? Because he was calling him fat and I asked him to stop. And his mom goes, that's not a good reason to punch somebody. I said, I asked him to stop. And my mom goes, she looked at me and she goes, go to your room. And I go, okay. And then I heard her apologize. I'm so sorry. That's awful that he did that. I'm so sorry, John. And she was babying him. And they shut the door and then she came in my room and that's when all hell broke loose and I got my ass kicked. And she looked at me and she goes, you are grounded for a month. And in my head, I'm like, I protected you guys. I
was sticking up for you.
I was sticking up for you and I'm grounded for a month. And she grounded me for a month. And that was no probation, no nothing, just straight month. And I feel like that's where my wanting to protect my mom fractured. And then that created more anger. Like, I don't even have my mom. I can't have her back. I have these feelings in my head, these thoughts from these flashbacks that I have as from a kid. These flashbacks were crazy. Dreams, nightmares. And I remember waking up crying and they thought it was growing pains. And I was like, it's not growing pains. It's like pain.
Trauma.
It's pain. And they didn't know what was wrong. And it was just the flashbacks were so freaking vivid, bro. But it wasn't like it was happening as I was 5 or 6 or 7. It was me now.
Yeah.
And it was happening and I was weak and I couldn't do anything about it. And I took that all through high school.
Did you ever have times you tried to take your life?
Yeah.
You want to talk about any of those?
One was I was 15 and I think we had a big argument. And I remember I pushed my mom away. I remember my dad came in heated and he was a pretty even keeled guy. And he got really mad that I pushed my mom. I didn't. I pushed him. And he reared back and he punched me right here as hard as he could. We were just talking like I buffed up to him and he goes, you want to get bucked? I was like, what's up? And at the time I'm like, okay, I'm 15. I'm about this size. I'm about 6'1". I'm 180 pounds. I lift all the time. I play football and my dad doesn't do crap. I've seen him not work out. So I will whoop his right here. And I just dropped to the ground and he just said, you're nothing. I said, okay. And I remember I ended up losing a couple days later. I lost the football game for my team. I lost it. And I was just so down. And there was these 2 guys on my team that kept calling me gay. And it was just that same thing. And I just kept replaying those things. And I'm going like, I'm stuck here. I'm not going to be anything. I don't have anything going for me. I don't have nothing.
I have to live for.
So I remember I took like a little, one of my dad's ties and I tied it up to another one. And then I just made one and I put it around the ceiling fan and I tied it up there. And I remember standing on my bed and I wasn't even going to hang, bro. I was just going to kneel down and accept. So I remember getting down on my knees, like pushing down and like my knees didn't touch the bed, but I could kind of feel the fabric. And I remember just sitting there and go, just fight it. And it started getting tough. And then I just sort of, and then the ceiling broke. The ceiling fan came down and it was the wires and stuff. And I just kind of I fell straight off the bed and it pulled it all the way. And my dad came in and he worked maintenance at the apartments, by the way. So he looked at me and he goes, what happened? And I just looked at him and I said, oh, I was just messing around and I was trying to see if I could spin on a fan. And he goes, he looked at me weird. And I said, don't tell mom. He goes, I got it. And so he fixed it. And that was the first time I did that. I had another attempt. I don't know if it's an attempt, but my uncle passed away when I was 18. And these ideations of dying to me felt like an out, just away from the pain. So every time that those thoughts would come in or the nightmares would come in, I would have those ideations. But after that ceiling fan, I was like, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Then when my uncle died, I remember feeling so numb and driving there's a place called Torrey Pines in San Diego, and there's cliffs. And I used to go there I like the ocean. I mean, it's beautiful there.
It's pretty.
And I remember sitting there at Torrey Pines, and I remember looking down and going, what if I jump?
Yeah.
If I just
that's it.
sit and I end up on the ocean, on the beach where I want to. And I kind of got up and I stood there and I thought about it. And I really, I said, just do it. And I remember thinking, just don't be a pussy, just do it. I don't know why, I just started crying. And I thought to myself, this is really what my uncle would want me to do. Like, this dude, yes. Maybe I could step in and be there for his kids. Maybe I can be the type of mentor he was for me. Maybe if I do this, I'm going to go to hell. I'm not going to get to see him. So I had all these, I talked to myself out of it, which was great. And I didn't, but I became a recluse. Everything I was doing in school, I dropped. I stopped going to class. I was rushing a fraternity. I stopped going to the fraternity events. I didn't even have a phone, so nobody could get a hold of me. I just ghosted. I went back to my parents' house and I went in my room and I shut the door and I would eat and I would eat and I would eat inside that room, and that was it. Sleep. And that was it. I remember depression, bro.
Depression, but
that was depression.
Yeah.
And finally, one of my friends from high school came out, and I don't know who told him or if they were looking for me, but he came, and I remember my dad opened the door and my friend was standing right there. And he goes, what's wrong with you, dude? I went from playing football and being 210 pounds and muscular. And he looked at me and goes, bro, you must weigh 160 pounds. And I did. I go, I just don't want to do anything, Mike. And he goes, no, man, come on. And he literally made me, I said, no, I haven't showered in 30 days. I probably stunk. He goes, go shower. I'm going to be waiting for you. We're going out. And I remember I took a shower and I got in his car and I said, where are we going? He goes, we're going back down to San Diego State. And I go, what? He goes, we're going down where we've been at. We're going to go to a party. He goes, your fraternity has been asking about you. People are asking where you are. We're worried. So we're going to go down there and we're going to say what's up. And that was probably the best thing that happened, because if it weren't for him, I would not have gone back to that fraternity and I wouldn't have met my wife.
That's when you met Kinsey? Dude, wow. Let's go there, man. Let's talk about when you saw Kinsey.
So, shit, I got teary. My bad.
No.
My bad.
We
went to when we went back to that it wasn't that night I met Kinsey, but I went back and it was towards the end of the semester, and I remember everybody looking at me and being happy. And you know that feeling where you just want to be wanted, and that
you mattered.
Yeah, I mattered, and that went away when I stopped playing sports. I think that's why I was so depressed. Is when I lost sports, I didn't have my teammates, I didn't have my friends, I didn't have anybody to rely on. So when I showed up at that house, and they all looked at me and got up and gave me a hug and smiled and loved me, bro. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I've been looking for that same vibe from football. I found it here with these guys at this fraternity. And I could still go to school here and everything's fine. And there's nothing wrong with quitting football and nothing wrong with not achieving what I thought I was going to do in sports. So I went back and I finished that semester, completely got on academic probation because the professors did not care one bit. So I'm on probation, and that summer hits and I was living in my truck. I was homeless. As soon as I left my dad's house, my parents' house, I basically took my stuff and I was in my truck. And so I was staying in La Jolla, and I would get up and bodyboard in the mornings and shower in the free public shower. And then I would drive to San Diego State So I was living in my truck, and at the end of the semester, my friend goes, "Hey, dude, I have a room in the fraternity. You can stay there for $25 a month this summer. My dad's got the rest. You just pay me $25 a month." And it was like for like 2 or 3 months. And I go, "Really, Chris?" He goes, "Yes. Dude, just come on, bro. We just find a mattress." I'm like, "Okay." So we went, me and my boy, went driving, and I was like, "Where do I buy a mattress?" So we see one on the side of the road. I'm like, bet by the houses at college. And I'm like, so this must be some dude or some chick that's moving out. So let's take this mattress, put it in my truck. It fell off on the freeway, so we had to go grab it and put it back on the thing. And then we drove it back to the fraternity. And I get in there, and as we're putting it up, my boy goes, "Oh, dude, I did not notice there was a big ass blood stain, dude, just on this mattress." And he goes, "You're going to sleep on that?" I was like, "Yeah, let's just put the blood side down. We'll put sheets on it. That'll be pretty good." And we're good. Everything's fine. So we put the bed in there. And my first night there, they were throwing a 70s party. And I remember walking out and seeing Kinsey. And I recognized her because my roommate, the guy that I just moved in with, first of all, I got to move in early, which was dope so it was end of school year. Everybody was still there. It was a big party. And he had a picture with Kinsey. He had a picture full of every girl you could possibly think of. But one of them was Kinsey. And I remember thinking, that's the prettiest one. Out of all the girls, all the pictures you have in here, Chris, and there was probably 100 because this guy was a bitch. And I saw her in person. It was like, it's almost not when you meet a celebrity, right? It's the same thing with like when I met black people. It was like, I see them on TV only or on a picture only. And then you see them in person. It's like, whoa, that's her. And I thought, I'm just going to go and dance with her. And I walked up, and I'm wearing a big old afro. My eyes are down here. Had a unbuttoned shirt because I'm trying to show off my 170-pound body. And I just walked up behind her, and I started just kind of dancing. And she had her back to me, and she kind of like looked, and she kind of turned. And when she fully turned around, she started laughing. And she goes, "Ha!" and kind of grabbed her friend and just kind of like shimmied over to her friend and started dancing with me. Then this other girl kind of started dancing on me, which I later found out was her sister, who shouldn't have been there because she was in high school. Not my fault. I was just dancing. Kelly. And so I remember I just kind of like stood there and danced for like 20 seconds. I felt so embarrassed. I walked out, went back to my room, and I'm like, took my wig.
What did I do?
I'm like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. And my boy walks in and he goes, "What are you doing in here?" And I go, "Dude, I need to recover from what just happened." He goes, "What?" So I just tried to dance with that girl, and she just laughed at me. And I've never been laughed at so hard in my life by a girl. And I'm so embarrassed. And I think I'm just going to go die. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, that's Kinsey." And I go, "Okay." I didn't get her name because, again, she laughed at me. He goes, "Yeah, dude, she just got done. She just got out of a long relationship with her like high school boyfriend. I think she just wants to have fun. She wants nothing serious, blah, blah, blah." She goes, "Don't waste your time." And he will attest to that. I looked down, I was like, "Oh, no, I will waste my time." And that chick is, I guarantee, if anything, that chick's going to be my girlfriend. I guarantee it. And he laughed it off, and I knew I was lying. And about a week later, school finally ends. We're at a barbecue at a friend's house that's a rental. And I'm sitting on steps. They just made some steak. And I'm sitting there eating my steak. And Kinsey walks in with my roommate's girlfriend. And I remember I look up, and it wasn't a happy thought. It was like, oh, this chick. And she looked at me and kind of like smiled and kept walking. And I just sat there and I'm cutting my steak. And then I feel her presence coming towards me. And I go, "Oh, she's coming to apologize. She needs to." And she comes over and she goes, and if you know my wife, this is hilarious because it is quite obvious what I'm eating. But she goes, "What are you eating?" And I, smart ass, go, "Obviously steak." And she goes, "Oh, can I have a bite?" And if you know my wife, she doesn't eat steak. So this was big for her. So I go, "Sure." So I start cutting one. She goes, "Oh, can you get me one of the burnt parts?" And I go, "Okay, this chick's asking for a lot." So okay. Go. So she sits and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "Oh, I'm just hanging out. Just end of school year. Have a day off from work." And she
played it cool.
I played it cool. And she goes, "Where do you work?" And I go, "I work at a restaurant called Pat and Oscars." And she goes, "Oh, I love Pat and Oscars." And as this conversation is happening, my roommate goes, "Dude, we gotta go. Jenny got in that." One of our friends got in a car accident. And I'm like, "What, dude?" I'm like, "Okay." I go, I gotta go. And he goes, "No, dude, Jenny, like, we gotta go." And I go, "How are we getting home?" And Kinsey goes, "Oh, I'll drive you guys." And I go, "Okay." So she drives us back to the fraternity, me and Chris, and he's all flustered because his friend got in a car accident. And she goes, what are you going to do now? And I go, I'm going to just go to sleep. Bye. Shut the door. Go inside.
Hard to get.
And then I'm sitting in there. Chris leaves to go help out. The phone rings in our room and I pick it up. Is Chris there? No. Who's this? I'll tell him you called. Oh, it's Kinsey. That's from I go, I know who you are. I'll let him know you called. Bye. It's like, hang up on him.
Nice.
I don't, looking back,
were you like hang up, but like, was that you were like committed?
I think I was just pissed still from.
Was it like pissed and a little maybe a little protection?
I had a little ego, dude. Like I like my ego was so broken at that time. Like even though I had told Chris, I'm like, I like this chick and I really think she's pretty. I was still so butthurt, and it's hard for me to unbutthurt myself. So I just hung up and I went to sleep, and I woke up that next morning and I was about to go to work, and no, I had the day off. I'm sitting there on AOL Instant Messenger trying to flirt with girls.
Yes.
That's what we did back in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah. And some MySpace.
And so all of a sudden, this little box pops up. Blonde Bombshell 83 wants to have a conversation. And I go, yo, where was she in the chat room? That's cool that she wants to talk to SC Pimp 5. So very cringy, I know. So I click accept. And I write ASL. And she writes, hi, Jose. I go, oh, you know me? I go, who is this? And she writes, it's Kinsey. And I jokingly go, okay, this is getting stalker-ish. She's stalking now. And she goes, yeah, I got your AOL from Chris. And I go, oh, cool. And she goes, hold on. And then the phone rings and it's her. And I pick it up. She goes, what are you doing right now? And I go, I was on AOL. I was clearly trying to find chicks because it's summer and I'm bored. And she goes, do you want to go for a hike? And I go, okay, sure. She goes, okay, I'll pick you up in 10. I go, okay. So she shows up with a friend and we go hiking a place called Cow's Mountain. And afterwards, she goes, you said you work at Pat and Oscar's? And she goes, can we go eat there? And I go, sure. And we went to Pat and Oscar's with her friend, me and Kinsey. I walk in and my manager looks at me walking in with these two hot chicks and he goes, like, whoa, dude. And I go, I know. Follow yourself on, bro. And I'm trying to play like I'm big pimping. And so I walk up and I have, oh God, no money to my name. I remember it was those times where I had to like ration my money to the cent.
You're waiting for her to order and then trying to think about like doing the math in your head.
And I told him, my treat. And so we get up there and I'm thinking the girls are going to get like a salad. So we get her friend orders a half chicken meal. And I'm like, oh, well, that's half of my stuff. Okay, cool. And then Kinsey goes, yeah, I'll take let's do a small pizza. We can share it. And I'm like, oh, now we're in danger zone. I'm like, I don't know if I can cover this with tax, dude. So I go, so they finish. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, how do I get out of this? Because he gives me my total. I didn't even order food.
Yeah, tell him like, yo, take this off my next paycheck.
I was like, yo, I'll just eat some of your pizza, I guess. Yeah, that's cool because I'm full.
Yeah.
And so I go, you guys go get a table. I got this. And my manager looks at me and I go, Robert, I don't have enough. And he goes, oh, don't worry, bro. I had you from the get-go. And he freaking slapped this thing and paid for our entire meal. And I was like, whoa. Let me get a rack of ribs. Like, you for real treat? And he goes, yeah, man, we'll put a little half rib in there for you. So he paid for my meal. And we went and dropped her friend off. She drove me back to the fraternity house. And I remember we just had that awkward, she pulled up and she looked at me and she goes, you want to hang out later? And I go, yeah, I was like that. I think we're going to have people over. And she goes, okay. And then she just went in, like we kissed. It was like our first kiss. It was just first date and everything. And we just kissed. And, yeah, like a kiss, like a mwah. And I remember thinking, yeah, it wasn't a makeout session because of ribs and pizza. And so she dropped me off and we hung out every single night from there until we got married.
Talk about the importance of that. I mean, y'all have been married how long now?
15 years. About to be 15 years. Together over 20.
And two amazing kids. But talk about the importance of Kinsey entering your life at that time. I know that you had the frat and like had some community and some connection, but like the importance of that and what maybe she saw in you that you didn't see in yourself.
So I don't know what she saw in me, because honestly, it's not like she was asking me what I was going to do.
Did you know that you'd been living out of your truck?
No, she actually jokes, and she's talked about this before with our friends. She thought she's like, I didn't even think you had a car. And I go, didn't think I have a car. That's where I was living. And I was like, ooh, shouldn't have said that. My bad. And so at that time, I mean, I'm fresh off of feeling so down. I felt unwanted. I felt like I had no direction, even though I kind of had a plan. My plan was to go to school and become a nurse, and maybe down the road, a nurse practitioner, and maybe a doctor. But to me, even that seemed daunting. And I knew myself. I was like, I'm not going to achieve that, because I've constantly been told, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, school wasn't really a thing.
School was. That's where I thrived. Yeah, man. I was like, I got really good grades. Yeah, I was excellent at school, and it's because my parents scared me. If I got anything less than a B, I was grounded. I never came home with a C, but I would have been grounded. And B's were like, get that up to an A. Mm-hmm. So it was like strict. So I did well in school. That's why I didn't do well in college, because I was pushed so hard that when I got liberties in college, I was like, I'm going to class. I don't have to go to class. I can just show up and take tests. I'm great at tests. Nope, I wasn't. Then I missed the back end of it because my uncle passed away. And so I was in this, nobody believes in me. All my friends were talking about, I'm doing this and that, and I'm honors, and I'm part of the government in college, and I'm running for office, and I'm doing this. And I had nothing. And she was just always like, oh, you're great at this. Oh, you're good at this. She always complimented me. I hadn't had that. I remember meeting her family for the first time when I went to meet her grandma at her grandma's house, thinking, okay, they're going to see me for what I am, a loser. I got nothing. I don't have much money. My parents, we don't have much. They probably want their daughter and granddaughter to be dating a wealthy dude. So I went in expecting that, because that's what all my other relationships were like. I sabotaged everything before I met Kinsey.
Because you never felt worthy.
I grew up in a nice area, but I was in government housing. So these kids were rich, dude. These kids had money. And I would date girls, and these kids, one of them drove a BMW, one of them jet. And I just realized I'm not worthy. I'm not. So I would sabotage. I would throw it away just as hard as I could. Like whether I was just a jerk to them, or I would just ghost them and I'd go out, or I'd tell them I'd go somewhere, and I would, because I wanted them to dump me, because I couldn't do it because I was a freaking coward. I tried that with Kinsey. It didn't work. She would always come back, and she was no. And it wasn't until right at the end of summer, she had an event where a guy drugged her at a fraternity. And we're probably dating for like 3 months at the time. And she went to a party, and I stayed back with my friends, and she went with another guy that I knew that was in my fraternity, and another girl. And about 40 minutes after they went to this party, he came back and he goes, hey, dude. And just the way he was looking at me, I was like, something happened. But he wasn't urgent. So I go, what's up? And he goes, I just saw Kinsey like get pulled into a room by a guy. And I go, pulled? Or like pushed, or like she went in there with a guy? And he goes, like, I don't think she's there. And I go, what do you mean? Dude, you've been gone for 40 minutes. What do you mean she's not there? Like, what's going on? And he goes, I think we need to go help her. And I go, okay. So we went to the party. They weren't letting us in. I see a guy that I knew. I was like, yo, my girl's in there. Let me just go pull her out. I'm not trying to take your chicks. Yeah. And I had like 2 other guys with me. And so he goes, yeah, just go get your girl, whatever, and get out. Because they were charging her. So I walk in, and I knew the house pretty well because I had been there before. And I knew where the rooms were. So I walked upstairs, and I look, and every door is open except for one. And so I'm looking as I'm walking by, and I go up to this door that's closed, and I just open it. And I see Kinsey laying on, they have bunk beds, and I see her legs and a guy on top of her, but she is not moving. She's just like kind of like, you know, when you're wasted. Yeah. And I go, hey. And the guy, he looks at me and he goes, hey, shut the door. I'm trying to fuck. And I go, my girlfriend? And as soon as I said that, his eyes got real big and he stood up, and I just started wailing on him. I just started beating on him. And I hit him kind of wrong. And so I felt my hand, I broke it. Mm-hmm. And so I felt that, and I'm looking around, like, so I'm swinging to my left, and I look and I see his keyboard from his computer, and I pick that up and I just start, and I'm beating him. And so my friends, now everybody's coming, and his friends are coming. So my friends finally pull me off of him. And the guys are like, what are you doing? I was like, he's trying to rape my girlfriend. He's doing it. And the guys are like, you can tell they're like, they don't want problems. They're like, get her out of here. So we grab Kinsey and we take her out. And I took care of her that night. I didn't take her to the hospital. I should have. I didn't know that she had gotten drugged. I didn't comprehend that.
Sure.
But I took care of her that night in my bathroom. And I had never taken care of somebody like that. Like she was puking. She was everything. It was like everything in her body was coming out all over my bathroom. And I knew I loved her because I wasn't grossed out. I didn't hate her over it. I wasn't mad. I just wanted to nurture. And this was the first time I felt like I nurtured somebody.
It's beautiful.
And I took her home the next day and I carried her in, and Kinsey's awake at this time. She goes, I don't know what happened. I don't remember anything. She puked all over my truck. And I was kind of mad, I'll be honest. And her mom answered the door and I go, your daughter needs help. Because again, I didn't understand drugs like that happened. I just thought she drank too much and she didn't pace herself. And she goes, oh my God, thank you for taking care of her. And it wasn't until a couple of days later that I found out that this guy had slipped something and tried to drug her, and that's, I think, when I realized this is my woman.
I care for
this girl. Her family brought me in, and when they met me, her grandma was nothing but welcoming, and they loved me. Like, I had not been accepted like that by a family
ever,
except for mine, but even that was rough.
Yeah.
And I realized that she was for me when I went and got an internship at a radio station, which turned into my career randomly enough.
Mm-hmm.
I met with a counselor, and I was going to go intern at a hospital. And they said, if you're going to work at a hospital for the rest of your life, go try everything before you commit. And I guess that's kind of what they say about dating, right? Go try before you commit, which I did not. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. I'm really into the arts. I want to be an entertainer. I wanted to be an actor so bad as a kid. And she goes, well, LA's up the road. There's radio stations. There's news stations. Get an internship there and then kick off your medical career. And so I said, okay. And I took a drive home, and they literally had a commercial come on giving me directions to the radio station. And they said, it's a 9660 off of Arrow Drive, Granite Ridge Drive. I knew Arrow Drive because that's where the Chargers practice facility was, and I loved watching their practices. So I go, I know where that is. I'm right here, 3/4 of a mile away. I got off. I kind of looked. I'm like, oh, that's Granite Ridge Drive. I found the radio station. I put an application in.
Yeah.
I'm walking out. These two girls are walking downstairs, and they go, what are you doing? Picking up a prize? No, here for the internship. They go, oh, we're doing the interviews. Come on. They pulled me
on
in.
The spot.
I had them laughing. I was telling stories. They hired me on the spot. I'm thinking, I'm probably one of 3 people in San Diego that just got hired on the radio, and I'm not even trying, bro. I am God. And so I got home. I was so proud of myself. Like, I hadn't been proud of myself in years. Like, that proud. I felt like I did something that was unachievable. And I called my mom. She shit on it. Oh, you're not going to make money. You're not going to make it. You know how many people want to do that? My dad said, dude, you're wasting your time. My grandma, you're an idiot. She called me an idiot, straight up an idiot. You're not going to do nothing. Told a couple of my friends from because Kinsey was working. Dude, what are you doing, man? You're just wasting it. Like, nobody, I was so proud, and nobody said congrats.
Wow.
Until Kinsey got home from work. And I said, hey, I got a job at the radio station. She goes, really? I didn't know you wanted to do that. It wasn't, you're not going to do that. You're wasting your time. At the time,
saw you, bro.
She goes, really? And I go, yeah. And she goes, that's so awesome. And she gave me a hug, bro. Mm-hmm. And at the time, again, I'm a waiter. I can't provide anything. She had been dragging me to live in an apartment with a girl she went to school with after I lost my place because I didn't have the money. So she found me a place to live. After that, her dad let me stay in her house. After that, her friend's dad let us live in this pool house that he had in the back. We lived in a closet, dude, like in a little sunroom for $300 a month, me and Kinsey. This is where she gave me the hug. I remember thinking, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put everything I got for her. And that was, I remember going to the radio station, my first day of work. I remember walking in going like, okay, I'm one of three. I got this. I just got to work harder than these two other fools they hired. And I walked into the meeting room and there are 30 interns, bro. I'm like, holy crap. I was like, I didn't know you guys were just hiring everybody. Like, put in an application. And I remember feeling like,
yeah,
this is going to be impossible. I'm like, what am I doing?
And you probably thought you were going to actually be on the radio.
Yeah.
Like not realizing.
I'm like, I'm on the radio. I'm going to click. No, dude, it was, you're coffee boy. You're printing copies. You're doing events.
Yeah, you're going to this random dive bar to do something for the show.
And I remember I showed up a little bit late to the meeting because I had class and they were cool with it, but they had already done signups. And so the shit I wanted to do, taken. Morning shows, interns, taken. Afternoon drive, taken. Middays with Cha-Cha, taken. Somebody already signed up. Nights, cool. I'm like, okay. We're giving you guys a tour. Then we went on the tour and we're down there and I'm just kind of like, damn, man, I'm just going to be a promotions person. And I remember we walked in the studio and the midday girl was doing a break and she hit that button, bro, and she plotted it up. She did her break after she said hi to us as we're standing there. She finished, put it down, turned it off and looked at us. And started talking normal again. I go, hold up. You just talked to like all of San Diego just by pushing a button. She goes, I asked it in front of everyone. They kind of laughed at me. Yeah, it's kind of radio, dude. That's how it works.
You're in awe, though.
And I'm like, just that button, you can talk to everybody. And she goes, yeah,
power.
And that's when I was like, I want that. I don't care what it takes. I want that. I want that so bad. So I couldn't do the shows that all the interns were doing, but I started realizing I have a key card. And I saw there was a production studio and I asked them like, what's that studio? They said, oh, that's where we cut our commercials. And I go, what's that computer in the studio? And they go, that's the log. That's this computer in the studio. It's in there. I go, so you can run a show from in there and here? And they told me, yeah. And I go, okay, now what about sometimes I hear people that are recorded like overnight? Like, what's up with that? And I go, that's called voice tracking. I go, like, where do you do that? They go, in that studio. I go, really? I'm like, so you could just go in there and like talk and like ramp up songs and all that? Yeah. I said, okay. So I asked the producer of the morning show, I go, hey dude, can you teach me how to use the program? And he goes, why? I said, cause I want to intern for you guys next semester and I want to know how to run it. He goes, okay. So he taught me how to use the program.
Smart.
And so that night, I knew that the night guy got off his shift at 10 p.m. and he was out of there because I did events. He was out of there by 10:05 and I was in the studio at 10:07.
Yes.
And I just went in there and I remember going, okay, don't touch everything, touch some stuff. And I found the microphone and I just kind of hit it and I talked into it and I looked at the phones to make sure that they didn't ring. I'm like, okay, I'm not on air. That's good. And then I looked at the log and I'm like, okay, I can voice track. And then I look over and I see all these tapes. Okay, I see a tape deck. Wait, I can record myself. So I started practicing and I would just listen to me. And I'd go and I'd just intro songs. And then I started practicing breaks. And I literally was playing radio. I would get done with my shift at the restaurant. I would go do my events as an intern. And then I would, whatever time he was gone, I was walking in. Sometimes I would wait for him to get out of there. And Kinsey was busting her butt working and going to school. And it paid off because I started recording these things and I would put them on CD. And then I would go home and I used to listen to the radio station. I would go, no, I'm going to listen to me. So I would play all my CDs. I would make all the shows. And so I'm listening. I'm like, okay, that was corny. Let's not do that again. I was like, okay, I like the way I hit that. Okay, I need a little less energy in that song. I need this. And so I started coaching myself. Nobody taught me. I did it just from listening. But I had all these CDs, bro, like probably 100. And I was just messing around one day. We were making a float. And my program director heard me. I started like making fun of the rock station guys and they were making fun of me. And so I was cracking jokes on them and she looked out the door and she goes, you get your ass in here right now. And I go, oh, this is how I get fired. I shouldn't have said that. That was too far. I made fun of his mama. So I walked in and she goes, hey, are you always quirky like that? You think you're off the cuff? And I go, yeah. She goes, are you interested in doing radio? And I go, I mean, I would love to do radio. And she goes, okay. She goes, because somebody was leaving, one of the part-timers, so-and-so got in trouble, actually got a DUI, so they got canned. And she goes, I'm going to be looking for a part-timer here soon. And she goes, I suggest you start learning. And I go, learning what? And she goes, learning radio. And I go, like what? She goes, like how to do a show and how to learn how to intro songs. And I go, I think I already do. She goes, oh, you think you know it all already? And I go, no. I go, can I go to get my backpack real quick? She goes, go get your play. I said, hold up. I go get my backpack and I open up. She goes, what is that? Are you a rapper? And I go, no, I've been coming in at night, been working, and I've been practicing. And she goes, what? She goes, you could have screwed up my radio station. I was like, oh no, I'm fully aware. And I was very careful and I never did, I don't think. But I did practice and I put them together and she goes, pop one in. She listened. She goes, that was your first one ever? And I go, yeah. She goes, I can tell. And I go, I know, but I think I'm getting better. And she goes, put your last one in. The most recent one, I put that one in. She goes, you've been doing this how long? I said, for a couple months. Yeah. And she goes, okay, you're on. I go, I'm on. She goes, you're on Friday. So Thursday going into Friday from 2 to 6 in the morning. And I go, what? Live? She goes, live. I go, okay. She goes, you think you can handle it? She goes, you can. Nobody's freaking listening.
It's 2 a.m.
2 a.m. And I remember going, okay, that's my break. Cool. I got out. I called Kinsey. I go, babe,
put me on the radio.
Put me on the radio. She goes, oh my God, I'm so excited for you. She was pumped, dude.
Isn't that cool to have somebody that's a champion that celebrates you?
Yeah. And she goes, what time? I go, 2 to 6. Oh my God. That's afternoon grad. Oh my God. That's like, I go, oh, in the morning. Damn. She goes, oh, that's still so cool. I remember I called my mom 2 to 6 in the morning. Nobody's listening then. Just when I told my family, it was just like, boom, just get brought back down to earth. Dude, I'm like, God, can I get some love from somebody? And I remember telling my friends, okay, cool. Like, how many of those guys make it? Even my parents were like, yeah, there's a lot of people that do that and they don't make it. And she mentioned a couple of the guys that have been there for a couple of years doing what I was about to start doing. And she goes, they're still doing that. Mm. She goes, go back to school and finish. And I remember thinking, you know what? No, I'm done with school. And I went and I dropped everything. I said, if I'm going to do radio, I'm going all in. Same way I went in on football, the same way I went in on school. If I'm going to do something, I'm not going to half-ass with school, and I'm not going to half-ass with radio, and half-ass with my restaurant. I quit school. I'm working at the restaurant just for money, and I'm going to find a way to get paid at the radio station. And I just did. It's $25 a shift, but I'll figure it out. So I did my shift, and I freaking had a blast. And I remember I went in there and I played her the tape, and she goes, and I had truckers on. I had girls that were doing homework on. And she goes, here's the thing, rules on the radio. You're single. No girlfriend. Cool. I had to tell Kenzie that. She took it actually pretty well. Number 2, stay like that. Just whatever you feel is right, keep doing that.
Trust that guy.
And number 3, the best ability is availability. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. And she says, meaning don't turn anything down.
Yep,
till I give everything. Yeah. I said, okay. And I took that to heart. From that moment, I said, Diana, can you hire me? They had boy toys this summer. I was like, can you hire me as a boy toy this summer? And these are guys that went around in like tank tops and like tattoos on girls and flirted. And I was like, I could be boy toy Jose, like the boy toy the guy that helped me, boy toy Jesse.
Did you have a radio name?
Yep.
What was it?
So when I was interning with the morning show by that time, right? And so they walked in on me rapping 50 Cent. And his name was AJ from, I actually looked up to this dude, so I listened to him, and it was cool to work with him. He looked at me and goes, you rap? That's pretty good, man. You like 50 peso. And that was it.
50 peso was peso.
So when she gave me my shift, I didn't even tell her I was going to go by Jose or what. I just went by 50 peso. Because that's what they kind of called me on the morning show when they would mention me. And so I was 50 peso. And I started doing that. And she hired me. She goes, I'm not going to hire you as a boy toy. That's a dead end. She goes, I know I have boy toy Jesse, but he's the only guy I've ever hired from that to be on air full time. You got to make your own way. And I said, okay. She goes, I'll hire you as a promotions assistant, but you're a part-time on here too. And I took it and I worked my ass off and became like, not the main guy in promotions, but I was one of the top 2 like managers. And every shift that opened up, I was on it. When they'd be in our part-time meeting, all right, who wants to work Thanksgiving? Boom. Nobody would raise me. I'm doing it. Who wants to do the New Year's countdown into 3:00 in the morning? I'm doing it. Who wants to do Christmas Eve? I'll take all those shifts.
Availability.
I just started doing availability. And I started realizing that I started gaining traction because I was on air so much in the off hours. That's when kids were listening. So I started getting traction with the high schoolers and the college students. And then I started having people ask about me like, hey, we want to hire Jesse to do this club, but hey, can you guys throw in 50 peso as a promotions guy? Because they knew I was a promotions guy. So they got 2 jocks at one event and and I started hosting parties. And then I started getting, yo, you're filling in for so-and-so instead, not 2 to 6 in the morning, but you're filling in for the night guy now. And hey, we're going to put you on Friday and Saturday with a live DJ, make it a party show, have fun. Let's do it. And my show just started everything started lining up. And I got this just confidence. And it just became this, like, I just became a trained, just one track mind.
Master your craft.
Work. And you can ask Kinsey, I had 0 days off from the moment I started doing my part-time gig at the radio station to the moment I got hired in Dallas with the Kidd Kraddick morning show. I didn't have a vacation. I didn't have a day off. I was working 7 days a week, grinding at least 10 hours a day. Yeah. Whether I was at the restaurant or at the radio station, I was working.
What was it to meet Kidd Kraddick for the first time?
Oh, man. So I'll go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So while I was working my butt off in San Diego and doing well, my boss that hired me, her name was Diana Laird, and she's the woman that gave me my chance. She's the dude. I would be on we had a little patrol car, had a little sirens on it. I'd be on patrol. She would call me and go, hey, what are you doing? I'm just doing street hits. Come have lunch with me. And she developed this relationship with me that I felt like it was almost motherly or big sister like. Yeah. And it was she called me in for one of my voice tracks to go over it. And she looked at me and she goes, you've come such a long way. And again, I haven't had affirmation from a female except for my girlfriend at the time. So to come from somebody of power was huge. And she looked at me and she goes, you're going to make it in this industry. And that's what lit my fire. And I'm so glad that happened because if she hadn't have said that to me, I wouldn't be here.
So key to have somebody in you. I remember that football for me too. Like the moment when somebody, like actually when my dad said, who played college ball as a linebacker at Oregon, and he looked at me and said, when I was really down, I actually wanted to quit football. I was in college. And he said, you know, you're going to be better than me at football one day. And I get goosebumps right now, though, just thinking about that, right? Because it was like, bro, like someone could see something in me and believe in me when I couldn't believe in myself.
It's a butterfly effect. So that your dad saying that to you is probably what kept you from quitting college football. And you made it to the freaking NFL. But not only made it, but you got drafted, which is an honor. Only
252 by year.
You know that, Mr. Relevant. But I talk about that moment because she ended up getting fired. Maybe a month after that.
Wow.
There was, back then people would give PD things and it was something to do with J-Lo or something. I don't know, but something happened and she ended up losing her job over it. And I was devastated, bro. Because this
was the person
that was my,
your back.
That was my person that had my back. And she just told me she believed in me and she had something for me. Like I saw her as like, she's going to put me on her station and I'm set for life. And she's gone. And they brought in a new guy and me and this guy did not click one bit, not one bit. When we started doing my air checks, he wanted me to change you've watched the Howard Stern movie? Mm-hmm. WNBC. That shit happens, bro. I was in one of my air check meetings and he goes, hey man, I need you to change your voice. I'm already self-conscious about my voice. I don't think I have a radio voice.
That's crazy.
I don't. Because if you go back to like all the old school radio broadcasters, they have this really deep voice and they talk like this. And I can do that, but I sound corny doing it. And so he's going like, I need you to, say channel 933. And I go, I'm sorry, dude, I can't. I made myself I want to be your friend on the radio. I want them to think that I'm in the car talking like I want to be cool. I want to be your bro. And he goes, yeah, but you're on my station. If you want to do that, go to the hip hop station. And I'm like, but I don't want to go hip hop. I want to stay in top 40. And I feel like this is right. And at one point I said, you don't make Jesse, which was my best friend at the radio station, and he was the most successful guy there. He had just gotten hired in LA at Kiss FM in LA. Said, you don't make Jesse change his voice. He still talks pretty conversational. And I actually kind of got my style from him. And he goes, well, Jesse made it to LA. And I go, how am I supposed to make it to LA if you're making me sound like like I'm Tom Brokaw? And he took offense to that. And he basically told me, he's like, see, this is why you're not going to make it. So I went from up over here. She told me I'm going to make it in this industry to this new guy who's now holding my future in his hands, telling me you're not going to make it. And I remember I went home that day and I was pissed. And I told Kinsey, I was like, I don't know if this is it. I think I hit a roadblock and he's not going anywhere and I'm done. Like this is all I know. And she goes, well, maybe we can figure out, maybe you can go back into nursing. And I go, yeah, I'll think about it. And we ended up having our concert, and we had our summer concert. And I got told when I got there that, hey, dude, you're going to get introed on stage this year. And I go, really? Never been introed. And I've been at the station for a couple of years now. And I go, wow, okay. I'm pumped. Okay. Yeah. I get to go in front of the crowd. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to walk the stage? Am I going to like look at girls and like wink? And so I'm like, okay, now I'm like planning it out. Like, what am I going to do to get some cheers? And we're backstage and they call it the morning show and they get cheers. And my boy Jesse. And then they bring in the afternoon drive girl, Cha-Cha. And then they bring in Hayes, the night guy. And then it's us, the part-timers. And so I go out first. And I just went behind the night guy who's like the cool guy, right? So like, we're high school kids. Nervous? And so, oh my God, I was so nervous. I'm like, I just hope I don't just hear Kinsey's voice. Yeah, like that's one just girl. My girlfriend. I'm like, I know she's going to cheer for me. And I remember they said, everybody give it up for 50 peso. And in my head, the place exploded. Just boom. And I'm walking out and I almost I felt like I went like that. And I looked and I smiled and I did the whole COVID thing. I'm like pumping them up. I'm throwing shirts out in the audience. And then I just go get my line. And I distinctly remember they announced the next person. And I was like, that wasn't as loud as mine. Mm-hmm. I don't think. But again, that was me. And it probably amplified because it was my name for the first time in front of a crowd. So it was probably just me. So we got off the stage and my boy Jesse comes up to me and goes, dude, what the hell? And I go, what? He goes, yeah, you got the loudest cheer, dude. And he was like, so happy for me. He goes, that was awesome, bro. Have a bro like. And I go, really? He goes, dude, you're a part-timer, bro. You're recognized. People know your name. Like they said 50 peso and they exploded, dude. And I was like, dude, I thought that was just in my head. He goes, nah, man, I'm telling you, as your homeboy, I'm not trying to blow you up. That was real. I'm proud of you. And I go, dang, and like, hug it out, cool. I went home that night and I told Kinsey, I'm leaving. I said, I'm not quitting radio. I'm leaving this freaking market. I'm done with this guy. He doesn't believe in me, but that crowd did. And you do. And I went online and I found a job site for radio only. And it said, Kidd Kraddick Morning Show is looking for, it said producer and fourth mic or something like that. What year is this? 2006. And so I go, okay, cool. Now I had all these negative feelings towards my station at the time. To go back a little bit, a couple months prior, that's when I found out about my biological death. And I had a attempt at my life episode that time, which we can get into after that. So I'll jump back forward. I find the job application. It says producer and fourth mic. Again, I just do part-timey and I kind of do nights and a couple live shows. And I do stuff on the morning show, but I'm not a full-timer on the morning show. So I'm all over that station, but not on, you know what I mean? You didn't fit that job description. Yeah. And I go, okay, bet. So I get all my stuff that I did for the morning show together because this was a morning show. So that helped. And I get some of my breaks on air, like my favorite ones. And I get those together because I did bits on my show. And then I was about to send off my reel and I stopped myself and I go, hold up. It says send it to Steve Scott. that's not Kidd Kraddick's real name, is it? So I looked up Kidd Kraddick. What's Kidd Kraddick's real name? It's not Steve Scott. I'm like, well, who's Kidd Kraddick? I had no idea who this guy was.
Really?
Zero idea.
And this is Ryan Seacrest before Ryan Seacrest.
Yes. Bro. Ryan Seacrest has been on tape saying he looked up to Kidd Kraddick.
Wow.
Like this guy is, but back then I didn't have the internet. I was, again, poor. I barely had a cell phone at the time. So there was no way I could like search. So I just kind of like looked on our database, and you could type in anybody that worked for Clear Channel by heart now. And I just typed in Kidd Kraddick, and boom, popped up. I had his phone number, personal email, company email.
Stop it.
Just right there for anybody to have that works for Clear Channel. And I go, okay, copy, paste.
Let's go.
Send. And I waited. And even Kinsey was like, I mean, it did say to send to Steve Scott.
Maybe you should follow the rules.
Maybe you should follow the rules. And I sent this on, it was probably like a Wednesday. So Thursday, Friday, the weekend comes by. Then on Monday, I go to work, and the front desk girl goes, hey, you gotta call. They're going to call back at like noon. I go, what? Okay. Sure. Right at noon. 50 peso, you have a call online, whatever. I never got calls, dude. So I'm like, oh, it's my first call.
Let's go.
So I pick it up. I go, this is 50 peso. And as I'm saying, I'm like, this is stupid. And I hear, he goes, hey, this is Steve Scott in Dallas, man. What's up? Oh, what's up, dude? He goes, all right, man. So I just want to ask you a couple of questions, dude. I go, oh, awesome, man. Yeah. He goes, did you read the job description? I go, yeah. And I'm thinking he's calling me out because I don't have the experience as a producer for fourth mic. I go, yeah, I read it. And he goes, yeah. Did you see where it said to send your reel to me and your resume? And I go, oh.
You panicking?
I was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, why is he calling me? Oh man, I pissed Kidd off. Oh crap, I'm done. He's just scolding me for no reason. And I go, yeah, I did see that, Steve, and I apologize, but I'm sorry. Your name it's not Steve Scott in the morning. Oh, and he goes, oh, and I hear a laugh. I hear a laugh.
Yeah, you shot your shot.
It wasn't Steve. It was like off the phone. Oh. And he goes, and then it gets closer, and he goes, Jose, this is Kidd Kraddick. And I go, hey, what's up, man? He goes, hey, so I got your email. And I go, oh, cool. Did you like it? And he goes, you know what? Actually, yeah. You made me laugh a few times. I like what you got going on. He goes, but most importantly, did you know that out of all the people that want this job, and there's a lot of them, and Steve can attest because he's got piles and piles of tapes in his office, you're the only one that emailed me. And I go, well, that makes me feel really bad for our industry, kid. And he goes, yeah. So I like your stuff. Can I fly you in for an audition? And I go, yeah. I go, when do you want me? And he goes, how about this weekend? I go, okay. Let me go tell my program director. He goes, yeah, I'll shoot over an email to your OM, to the big boss at the station, and let him know that you're going to be coming out to try out for our show. Thanks, man. Okay, cool. What do I do? And he goes, we'll get you plane tickets. We'll get you a hotel. Don't worry about it. My assistant's working on it. Cool. I'll bet. Bye. Hang up. I'm like, okay, let me go tell my boss. So I walk in his office. This guy hates me. I hate him, kind of. And he goes, what? I go, hey, man, I need my shifts covered this weekend. And I had never asked for a day off again. I've been working 7 days a week. So it's my first time asking for a day off. And he goes, for what? I go, oh, I just got a call from Kidd Kraddick. He wants me to go to Dallas to audition. And his eyes go, no. He goes, okay, cool, funny. And I go, what? He goes, you talked to Kidd Kraddick. I saw my boss fangirl over the man I just talked to, who I was way too casual with.
Yeah, you had no idea.
Had no idea the level of this guy's pull in radio. And I see my boss start like fangirl. He goes, what was he like? What did he say? I go, he wants to fly me out for an audition. He goes, you applied for the job? I go, what job? The job? Yeah, I applied for the job. And he goes, you weren't going to tell me? I go, I don't know how these things work. I didn't think I was going to get called. And so he goes, yeah, I mean, you can go, but from what I've heard, and he's looking for a Mexican girl. I go, what a flippant, dumbass thing to say to a Mexican man. He wants a Mexican girl. And I'm sitting there going like, in my head, I'm thinking, I'd say it out loud. And I go, okay, well, am I good to go? And he goes, yeah, I get go ahead, but he said, you're wasting your time. So I came out here and I did my audition, and it was cool. Meeting Kidd for the first time was now that I knew that he had that stature was intimidating until I went face to face with him and he came up to hear him. And so I felt a little bit better, but he was just so welcoming. And he was just, when he picked me up, I spent the day with Steve, the guy that I was supposed to stem my stuff with. So that Monday I went to audition and I kind of sat in the show. I didn't really do much. And I just watched. And after the show, he goes, "Hey, come take a ride with me. Let's go to lunch." And I go, "Okay." And so we got in his car and he was driving this cool BMW. And I'm like, "Man, this is so great. You can make money on radio. You can do well. Like you can make it out of nothing." And he goes, I grew up in Florida and I didn't really have much growing up. And I'm looking for people that are down to earth. And I go, "Okay." He goes, "I don't want people that are assholes, but I want people that are firm." He goes, "I want somebody that has a heart. I want someone to come in here and connect with my audience. But most importantly, I don't do fake." And I go, "Okay." He goes, "I don't do fake, as in I don't do fake bits. I don't do fake calls. I don't do fake stories. I don't do fake." So, and some of my bits that I did on, like, they were clearly fake things that I did with, like, on street stuff. He goes, "So if you come here, everything has to be real with me." I go, "Okay. And you'll get the same back from me." Bet. He goes, "Tell me your life story." And as we're driving out there, I told him my life story. And we went to a sushi restaurant and we go and we sit down at a table and there's another man there, a Mexican man. He goes, "This is my friend Carlos." And I go, "Hey, what's up, man? Good to meet you." He goes, "¿Cómo estás?" "Estoy bien. ¿Cómo estás tú?" "How are you?" I'm doing good. Yeah. And he's speaking to me in Spanish. And I'm like, it's kind of, I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, they're testing you to see if you were really Mexican.
So that kid orders sushi and I had never had sushi before. And I go, and I'm looking at it and he goes, "Have you ever had sushi?" I go, "No. It's raw."
Like supposed to eat that?
"Where's the gorilla at, dude?" And he goes, "What do you eat?" And I go, "Mostly mac and cheese with no butter because that's what me and my girlfriend can afford, and some ramen if we're lucky, and I'll eat whatever's at my restaurant." And he goes, "Oh my God." He goes, "You gonna try it?" And I go, "Sure, why not?" I go and I take my first bite of sushi ever. And he goes, "You like it?" I didn't really like it, but yeah. And he goes, "Finish it." And I go, "Awesome." So I bring it and I eat the rest of the sushi. Now I love sushi, but at the time he was testing me.
Yeah.
So I did my audition, flew back home, and every day I was back home going to the radio station was a day. My boss would be like, "No call from Kidd, huh? Oh, no call from Kidd." It was one of those where I just
salt in them.
I'm like, bro, I just literally had this traumatic thing happen with my family. I just applied for a job that was cool. And obviously I'm not getting it. And now you're rubbing salt in the wound. And I was just once again telling Kenzie, I'm like, I'm done. I just can't do it with these people. And I got to work one day and I got told by the front desk girl, "Hey, you need to go to Jim Richards' office like now." And I go, "What?" She goes, "Jose's here." He goes, "Okay." And I heard him go, "Okay, I'll get everybody." And so to walk up there, it was a whole thing.
What do you think?
Up there, I'm like, I'm getting fired.
Yeah.
I'm done. You don't go to his office unless something bad happened. Or I was like, did I cuss on air? Did I mess up one of the shifts? I'm like, I'm going over all the things I did in the last week. I'm like, was I too absent because I was so focused on this other job and I screwed myself? So I'm thinking of these things. I open the door, HR sitting right there. And I'm like, yep, I'm getting fired. This is great. And he's sitting right there, stern face. And I look to my right, my boss is sitting right there. And I go, oh, yeah, I'm definitely getting fired. So I pull up and he goes, sit down. And I sit down. I go, hey, good to see you guys. And he goes, all right, man, I'm going to shoot you straight. What do I got to do to keep you? I go, to keep me? I was like, you already got me. He goes, so it's paper. He goes, Dallas just sent over this contract. This is how much they're offering you. I can match it. And I go, what? You want to keep me? He goes, yeah. And I look, I'm like, so I don't know. I'm so confused right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. And I go, well, like, what's my future like here? And he looks over at my program director and he goes, what do you think? And he just kind of stands there and looks back at me and goes, well, what do you want? And I said, I want next up. I want next, whether it's nights, afternoon drive, midday on the morning show, like whenever a job opens, because I know somebody's leaving soon, I want that. And he looked over at my PD and he goes, that cool with you? He goes, yeah, he just doesn't listen to my coaching. Mm-hmm. And I go,
that was the nail in the coffin.
And so he just I felt his awkwardness. He was stern. I respect it. That's his feelings.
Sure.
And I go, all right, well, that answers everything. I grabbed the pen, signed it. I said, fax it. And I got up. I said, thank you so much, sir, for all these years. I shook his hand, shook her hand. I said, by the way, is this where I put my 2 weeks in? and he goes, yeah, you can put your 2 weeks in.
Wow.
All right. And I walked out of there. They took me off all the shifts. I didn't have to do it too. They literally just let me go. So I had 2 weeks. Kinsey was in Italy at the time with her grandma. I was homeless again. I had just lost my place of living. So we were living in her grandma's house. And so I'm sitting in her grandma's house and she called. I go, babe, I got the job in Dallas. She goes, what? And I go, yeah. And I'm done at Channel 933. She goes, what? And also, they want me there, like after 4th of July week. It's my first week. And she goes, what? She got home that Wednesday. We packed our little tiny U-Haul and we were hitting the road Friday and drove all the way out. My first shift was Monday.
Did you overwhelmed? Did you take a beat for yourself, like emotionally? Did you cry? Was there anything? I mean, like, talk about the feeling of that when you had so many people bet against you.
Bro, it was my first contract that I've ever signed. And I'll tell you exactly how much it was.
So much.
$40,000.
You feel like you made it.
I've made it. It was looking back at it. And I'm like, plus it's Texas, no state income. So I boosted it up a little bit in my,
time out. Cali for sure.
So it was my first contract. And I think in my head, since I was a kid, I wanted to be a pro football player so bad that I just envisioned that day. I envisioned the contract signing. And I thought that only happened in sports. But I was given this dream with way less money, but I was given this dream in my career in radio. And so I signed it. And as I was signing, I was like, this feels like the most grown up thing I have ever done. And it was the letterhead. It was the writing. It was the amount right there. It was just like, there was a number with a comma. And I just remember I was driving home and when I was driving, I just remember thinking, I did it. I did it. I made it to the big leagues. I mean, I'm not starting. I'm not a big shot. It's not a show.
I got a foot in the door though.
I'm not on the returns or anything, but I'm going to be on this show. And I just remember I just cried happy tears and I didn't have anybody to call. Kinsey was in Italy and my parents didn't really care for what I was doing in radio. And so I just remember just by myself, just
how'd that feel?
Just lonely. Felt lonely. It felt like even you can call friends, but like even my friends, I had isolated myself so much because I worked so much that I didn't really have friends except for my people in radio, my friends at the radio station, and they already knew because they had heard. So it's not like I'm gonna call them like, oh, I got the me. It was just me in that car. And when I got home to Kinsey's grandma's house, they were obviously on a trip, so it was just me in that house by myself. And I remember the World Cup was on, and I remember sitting there watching the World Cup by myself.
Something had changed.
But I knew something had changed. Like my life was about to change, and I could make some of it if I wanted to.
And now all of a sudden you're in the ecosystem where you're learning from the best.
Yeah.
What was it like Kidd Kraddick had significant, massive influence on radio. What lessons did you learn early and throughout your time with him, and even in losing him, that stick with you today?
Just how to be genuine. I think the reason he was so successful is because what you heard on the radio is
that's him.
That's what you get on the street.
Connected.
So when you mention what I act like with people when they meet me and they listen to our show and they love us, you're going to get the same dude you hear on the radio on the street. I promise you. And that's because I've seen the guys that smell their stuff too much. I've seen the guys that feel themselves. I've seen the radio guys that think they're celebrities and act as if they are that. I refuse no matter, I don't know, I might have plateaued already and this is where I'm going to be at. But no matter where I get in radio, even if I get to Ryan Seacrest level, I am never, ever, ever going to feel like I am better than, or that you don't deserve my time.
Something so special. Your humility is, I can vouch for that, bro, like is so special. And that's what makes you so likable and so connectable and so accessible. Right? Like the access that you give people. I mean, again, like, you know, what and who you are in the radio. Maybe it was, you know, that early on with the producer or otherwise being like, it's not going to be fake.
Right.
That's cool, man. It's special.
I mean, you kind of got to, sometimes to get something you want, you kind of got to fib to get there, right?
I mean, I'm sure, look, dude, you're waking up at 3:45, you're work early. Like there's times you're punching it up, right? And I'm sure that there's a time that you have to be on, right? Like, especially as a public persona, you know, JC versus Jose, you know, and
there's me as a dad. And the one thing, like when I talked to Kidd when I got the job, he said, hey, when I had my friend there, he goes straight up, he goes, I didn't think you were Mexican. I go, what?
This is the test.
He goes, I know
you make this Mexican eat sushi. We're going to make him talk Spanish.
And so he goes, you're, because I only sent the headshot. So obviously it's just that. And so he was like, I was like, this guy must have found out I wanted a Latino on my, like Latin person on my show. And he goes, I just thought you were trying to pull one. And that's why I brought one. And so his friend, and we laughed about it. We're friends with his niece and everything. And she even told us the story. And just he almost fired me the first month I was here, dude. Like it was one of those moments where, again, I was not ready for that job. And I kind of got my way in there. And it's not even fibbing. It's just, I skirted.
Yeah, you saw an opportunity.
And so I saw an opportunity and I seized it. I mean, if you told me today, hey, this Dallas Cowboys, the dad got hurt. Would you tell them that, you know, you played 4 years at freaking, I don't know, a D3 and you were like all-time leading passer and then they'll put you on the roster? 100% I would do it. You know, I would do it 100% and I would get destroyed, but I would do it because I want it. That's the same thing with this. But it was evident I wasn't ready for the job when I got there, because when I got there and the mics turned on and I found out how big the show was and that it was syndicated. And that's when I was like, whoa, my whole life I've been thrown in the deep end. Everything I've ever done was deep end and I just got to swim. And this was the deepest of deep ends. And so I was finding myself thinking, okay, what's Kidd want me to do here? What's Kidd want me to say here? What does the audience feel like I should be like? What's my persona going to be? And then everything he told me, he didn't want fake. I started doing. And so the way I responded, and I was like, it was not me. And it was very evident. And I wasn't connecting the first month. And I literally showed up after 1 month of being there and in his office, very reminiscent of San Diego. And he was in his office with the program director and it was very somber. But this time I knew there was no contract. And he goes, hey man, I think it's not working. And I just felt like I just moved Kinsey out here. I just got an apartment. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting like this. I just screwed up. And I go, what do you mean it's not working? He's like, it's just not working. You're not vibing. It's not clicking. I go, so I'm going to phase you out of the show, even though I haven't even phased you in. And we're going to put you on Kiss here on the weekends, but then you can figure out where to go from there. And I walked out of there, bro, disheveled, just like, oh crap. And I went home and Kinsey was like, what's wrong? And it was hard for me to break the news to her. I said, I think I screwed it up. I think I didn't do something right. They're phasing me out. And she goes, what? She goes, why? I said, I'm not clicking with the audience. And she kind of mentioned, she goes, well, it's because you're not being you.
She could see it.
Yeah, she knew it. And I go, what are you being me? She goes, you're not being you. Like, you're not having fun. You look depressed. You look like you're scared the whole time. And I go, I am scared. I'm so scared. And she goes, well, oh well. And I go, yeah, oh well, it's over. And I went to sleep that night and I don't know what it was, but I woke up that morning and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I need to get tape. I need to get something so I can get another job.
Maybe me.
So until they phase me out of this morning show, I'm going to chime in and I'm going to do things and I'm going to get something on tape so that I can get another job somewhere in this country. And so that very next week, I just showed up and I think the dumbest thing, I started doing dumb knock jokes randomly. And Kelly Raspberry started laughing and Kidd got so mad because he thought knock jokes were dumb. And I go, well, I think they're funny. And then I started going out and doing this bit where I started applying for jobs legitimately. And I was like, wait, what if I just screw these job interviews up though? Because I don't really want to work in telemarketing, but I have a telemarketing job lined up just because he is literally firing me. So I went to these job interviews I had lined up and I screwed them up as best as I could. Awesome. I would mess, and I had a hidden mic and I just started doing it. And I did one and I brought it in that Thursday. And I go, hey, I know I'm getting phased out, but can I play something during the show? He goes, yeah, that's the point of the show. You create and bring stuff to the show and let's do it. I go, what do you think of this? And I played it for him and I had Kidd laughing so hard. It was just a dumb job interview where I just literally acted like an idiot and waited to see how long it took for them to kick me out.
Step Brothers.
That's where I got the idea, actually. It was Step Brothers. It was Step Brothers that gave me the idea. And he goes, dude, these are great. Can you get me one a week? And I go, wait, you said you were phasing me out, dude. I'm like, yeah, I can get you one a week. I already had like 2. And then those started hitting. And then after like 2 months, he goes, hey, let's go to dinner. And I'm still sitting there going like, am I getting phased out or not? Like now I'm starting to get love from the audience and like, I feel confident. And he goes, let's go to lunch or dinner. And so I show up with Kinsey, and it was like the first time Kinsey interacted with Kidd. And we're sitting there at Primo's in Uptown. And Kinsey ordered up tortilla soup. And this is where I just skyrocketed on that show. I'm sitting there eating and Kidd's sitting in front of me and Kinsey right here. And she takes a bite. She gets her soup. Within 10 seconds, she goes, I am so full. And he starts laughing. And she goes, what? And he goes, is she always like this? And I go, what? Like Kinsey? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, hold on 1 second. Kinsey gets up and she goes in because she's social. So she gets up and he goes, hey, can we do like a blog, but with your girlfriend? And I go, what do you mean a blog? She goes, does she just randomly say funny things? And I go, all the time. David he knows, like, what's your favorite line Kinsey has ever said?
I don't even like white guys. I can't even hear someone say, I don't even like it without me in my head. White guys.
So my girlfriend at the time had all these like little punches, but she doesn't know she's funny.
She's a gem.
When she tries to be funny, she's not. But
when she has no filter, that's the funny part.
And so I just started like honing in on like things she was saying at home. And like, if I made her mad and she said something, I was like, oh, let me write that. Or she saw something.
Was she aware that you were doing this? Like,
not until we started doing them. Yeah. So then I was like, instead of a blog, let's turn it into maybe we could turn it into a skit. And I gave my first one to Kidd, and he looked at it and he goes, oh my God, this is great. He goes, I got something. We got this. He goes, watch, just follow my lead. And I go, follow your lead. And gets in there. He plays that California song from the OC.
Yeah.
Does the phone ring thing. And I go, where the hell's this going? And boom, he does the voice modifier. And he goes, JC, what the hell? And I go, this dude is okay. I was like, what's up, babe? And we just started doing the Kinsey skits. And so I would come in with my written out skits. He would kind of doctor it up. And we would just do those.
Wait, so when and how did you get JC? Because you were 50 peso.
I was 50 peso.
Was that his plan?
Oh, that was right away, man. That was, so when I got the job, right, the weekend. So I landed, he goes, hey, we can't call you 50 peso. I mean, that's a great name and everything, but it needs to be more, human-like. Yeah. And I go, okay. He goes, do you want to go by Jose? Do you want to go by, my initials are actually JR. And he goes, do you want to go by JR? I go, I don't know if I want to go by JR in Dallas, dude. That's already taken. And he goes, I go, what about just my initials, JC? And he goes, cool. And so we just literally came up with that. I did the show for about maybe a year before we did the J-SI. And that came because we went to a radio convention and I met about 50 JCs. And I'm like, oh my God, there's one Kidd Kraddick. There's one Kelly Raspberry. There's a couple Big Al's, but Big Al Mac. And me, JC, with all the other JCs in radio. And I go, and so we're in the car going to dinner. And I go, dude, how am I going to stand out when I'm like one of 1,000 million JCs? And he goes, yeah, no, I noticed that too. Like, yeah, we screwed up. He goes, what if we change the name you write it? It was still JC. I go, how are we going to change JC? And he goes, He goes, do you just want to change your name like fully? And I go, sí. In Spanish, you're like, sí. And he goes, wait, what if we do J-S-I accent? And I go, JC, I'm Mexican. Oh, I was like, sure, let's go with it.
That's so
and that's where the name came from. Just from.
It's cool how well you guys collaborated and iterated, right? Especially after, again, probably the best thing that could have happened to you was to him to say you're getting phased out.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden it was like, man, I got nothing to lose. Right? I'm not going to stop looking outwardly to see what everybody else thinks or what I think they want. And now all of a sudden I'm just going to be me.
He kind of led by intimidation at times. And while it doesn't work so well with me all the time, that time it did.
He probably earned the right in the business.
Yeah, he could. Yeah. It's his show. And he saw that he may have made a bad investment and wanted to see if he could milk it. And he scared the crap out of me and it worked.
So as you, begin to, win the hearts of the listeners and you're a staple on the show, you're getting more and more play, more and more bids, more and more recognized. Kind of take us through just your time with Kidd. And then, we've talked about this a lot and I know, every day you think of Kidd.
I have to, man.
Not just because, his name is your radio show, but the impact that he's had on your life. So talk about, maybe what it was when you lost him and what that did, for you personally.
Man, it's just, I feel like in my life, every time I've gotten super close to a male figure, that person has left me or they passed. And that's how this felt. So Kidd became like my big brother. I used to just go to his house and we'd watch reality TV. Like I was probably hanging out with him the most out of anybody on the cast. Because they had all grown together and they used to hang out and then, people move and they get married but I was still in my 20s and I was going out a lot and he was, going through some life changes himself. And I think he liked my youthfulness. And so he brought me in and treated me like that little brother. I remember I got asked to perform with a band called Cobra Starship and they had a song with Travie from Gym Class Heroes. And I became friends with Gabe Saporta, which was the lead singer of the band. And he goes, hey, why don't you fill in for Travie? And it became a thing. So when they came to town, he asked me to do it again. And Kidd was like, what are you wearing? I don't know. It's probably some, because no, dude, let's go. He took me shopping to shop for like an outfit to wear on stage. That's the type of stuff he did. He didn't show affection very often, but he would show you he loved you in ways, right? So that was his way of showing me love. He was like, hey, let me get you an outfit for that show. But we also had our downs. There comes a time where I had been on the show for so long that I saw myself I'm stuck. Everybody that had my position had left after like 2 or 3 years and I had been there for like 7. And so I was like, I think it's time for me to go and spread. And so I auditioned for a show in LA with a guy named Big Boy. And so I started expanding and looking for other places to go so that I can grow. So maybe not a fourth mic, maybe a co-host, maybe even have my own show. And he kind of caught wind of that and he kind of blocked a couple of things. And we actually had like maybe a few months before his passing, we had like a screaming match. He blocked a job opportunity for me. And I went in his office and I said, that's up. Why would you do that to me? I thought we're family. And he said, no, I got something for you. And every time something like this happened and we got mad at each other, we always worked fine after. But this time when I was really angry and he goes, I promise you I got something cool coming. You can't leave. You can't, I promise you. But he couldn't tell me. And that was our TV show that we got. So it was Dish Nation. And he couldn't tell me yet because it hadn't been finalized. So he didn't want to tell me I got a TV show. And then, no, I didn't. And you also don't have that job. So when that happened, I always remember, I felt angry. And then when it was like, okay, he is looking out for me. And families do fight and we do get mad at each other. And we had a really cool moment, because we were still repairing our relationship there towards the end before he passed away. And we were in LA. And we were sitting in this it was a porn mansion. It was funny. We found out later. So he had like the master suite. And
I don't want to pull a black light in that place.
No, but it was funny. We thought it was hilarious when we found out. But he pulled me in his bathroom and he told me, he's like, hey man, he was dating a girl at the time and he confided in me. He's like, I'm going to propose. We go, wow. I said, have you told anybody? He goes, no. He goes, you think I could, he asked me, you think I could maybe have kids or something? And I was like, bro, yeah, why not? It was because I know maybe if this happens, like, so we had like this really, he opened up to me a lot. And I don't think I've ever actually told this story. And so I was like, yeah, you should. Like, if you're happy and she makes you happy. And he goes, yeah. And he went to Hawaii and proposed and did that. And then he came back and he was really happy. He had been in that bathroom. He told me, he's like, hey, I'm sorry how it went down. I should have been more open with you about what I had working. I should have trusted you. He goes, I really see something in you, man. He goes, I see you like family. And I couldn't let you go. And that made me feel good because you let all those other dudes that had my job go like easily. Or I don't know, maybe he tried. I don't know. But in my head, I'm like, it's like, I meant something to him. And he said, I see you. You're going to do something here. And he goes, I'm not going to be hosting the show forever. He goes, I'm probably going to retire here in the next 5 years or so. Maybe 10 at the most. It was kind of his way of like, you're next.
I see you as the guy that passed the torch.
Just stick with me, basically, is what the vibe I was getting. He's like, just stay with me. I got you. And that was a month later, 2 months later, we were going on our trip to New Orleans. And I had these moments with Kidd, but I was here with him. And we're in New Orleans. And man, I look back at the pictures now and I see it. I see it like in his face. But when you see somebody every day, it becomes it's normal. I mean, if I'm 300 pounds and I'm losing weight, by the time I'm 150 pounds, I see you every day. You're not going to notice. It's just going to be it. That was the case with Kidd. And I look, there's a picture of me and him on Bourbon with a listener. She took this picture, and it's the last picture I took with a fan with Kidd. I look at that picture every year because it pops up in my memories. And I go, why couldn't we tell? That night, and it was weird. It was almost poetic because we arrived at New Orleans and we went out to dinner. And then afterwards he goes, hey, let's go hang out. And normally we had a golf tournament the next day and we're all tired. We had done a show that day. I go, okay. He knew I was always going to go out. So me and Kidd and George, our boss, and our friend Greg, we all went out on Bourbon. And we went to karaoke, and he paid the karaoke people for me to get up and karaoke. And I got up there and crushed it. And he's dancing. He goes, he made me do the Magic Mike dance. And we're goofing he helped a dude that was selling CDs. And like, normally he didn't do this, but he bought a CD from this guy and like told him to keep on, like, give him some good. It's almost like I look back and I'm like, did he know something? Like, did he know this was his last night? Because he did like all these things that, he did, but he wouldn't do it like so close together. And we got in a cab and he said, hey, let's go gamble. And I was tapped. I go, I'm good, man. I was like, oh, come on, let's go gamble. And I was like, bro, it's 2 a.m. We got a long day tomorrow. I was like, you go gamble, man, because he was staying in a different hotel than I was. I go, you go gamble, have fun. And so my boss went with him, George. And on the way there, Eminem came on, and me and him sang Eminem like loud. I just remember him going because he loved, because I am whatever you say I am, and he didn't know the lyrics; he just knew the chorus. And that next morning, we went downstairs, and George had said, he said, I went up early. Kidd stayed down and gambled, and he should be down here shortly. And he came down, and something was off. And he said, I almost called an ambulance last night. And Kidd at times could be a little,
Well, yeah.
Like,
over the top.
You really going to call the ambulance? Yeah, man, I wasn't really feeling good. My arm was hurt. My left arm was hurting. And I think even Telly said, well, Kidd, you got to go to the doctor. If your arm's hurting, that's like a sign of a heart attack. And we're like, yeah, dude, just go and we'll take care of the golf tournament. He goes, no, I'll take care of it when I get back to Dallas. We're literally heading back that night. And we're like, okay. So we got in they got us a limo bus. We went out there. He went out to he was going to go warm up because he was going to do the first drive. And I remember he went with Jenna because Jenna golfed too. And he took a bite. I remember he took a bite of a Chick-fil-A sandwich they gave him because he hadn't eaten all day. And like he went over next, like he was next to a pool, and I remember seeing him bend over and he just kind of like he puked it out. And I was like, "Oh, are you good?" He goes, "Nah, I don't feel so good." And so they basically, our boss said, "Oh, well, let's take you back to the bus and let's get you some fluids and maybe some air conditioning." It was hot. Louisiana in the summer is hot. And so I remember he got in the golf cart. Jenna hit the first drive. He told her she did good or something. Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, good shot." And then he started driving, and he passed me, and he goes, "Can you do the announcements?" And I go, "Yeah, dude, I got you. Like, whenever you feel ready, or go back to the hotel if you got to sleep." He goes, "Okay." And they went in the golf cart to the bus, and they got in there. And I went on and did the announcements with Kelly and Al and Jenna, and we did a check presentation. Then we did a little march, and we walked into the clubhouse, and we were going to do a meet and greet, and we were taking pictures with everybody that came out. And I didn't have my phone on me. I think the only one that had her phone on was Jenna, who was on my show at the time. And I saw her like look at her phone once, and then she looked at it again. She finally picked it up, and she just put her to her ear, and she just screamed no and dropped. And I don't know why, but the last thing that crossed my mind was that it was Kidd. I thought it maybe something happened to a family member of hers, or she had a dog. I'm like, maybe her dog, something happened to her dog. And so she dropped the phone. And so I'm like, okay. So I picked it up and I put it up to my ear and I go, "Hello?" And it was our driver. And he was frantic. And he was just saying, "Kidd's gone. Kidd's gone." And I remember going, "Well, we'll find him." Because I thought Kidd would leave and just like get lost. And I go, "Well, go find him, dude." He goes, "No, he's gone." And the way he said it, I go, "He's gone." And then he goes, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I'm in the parking lot at the hospital." I'm like, "The hospital? What? And we just hang up. And I go, I think he hung up. And I just looked around and I looked at Jenna. She was crying on the ground. And somebody helped her up. She goes, "Kidd's dead." And I go, "Shh," because there's everybody around us. So we all walked out and we tried to call our boss. We called George, and I think Kelly got a hold of him. She goes, "What is going on?" Somebody just called Jenna, and JC said that they said Kidd's gone. What is happening? He goes, "He's at the hospital. I don't know exactly what's happening. Just come to the hospital." And that's when I knew. He didn't want to tell us on the phone, but those. So we get to the hospital and we walk in and everybody's looking at us. They know who we are. And just the looks that we got, I knew it wasn't good. So we walked into the...
Take your time, brother.
We walk into the waiting room, and I knew what that meant. And I remember Kelly asked, or Al said, "Why are we going in this room?" And I knew because I'd been there. And I think a doctor walked in and said, I feel like everything's such a blur, but I just remember hearing, we tried everything we could. We thought he had a lung aneurysm or a blood clot. They said something about a blood clot. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said there was nothing we could do. And I just remember thinking, like, it's almost like they couldn't even say the words that he was gone. They just said, we did everything we could do. And we just all looked at each other and sat down, and it was completely silent, except for us crying. And then the doctor said, "Do you guys want to go say your goodbyes?" And we all said yes. And we walked in, and he was there, but he wasn't. He was just laying there. And I remember walking up to him. The first thing I did was I touched his forehead. And that's when it all set in. Just cold. And I remember looking, and his eyes were a little bit open. And I remember thinking, can we close his eyes at least? And I tried, and it wouldn't. And I just remember then I went back and I touched him again. I felt like every time I touched him, it was like colder. And I just remember saying, please wake up. And I remember grabbing his hand. And I stood there, and I remember just saying, I can't be in here. And I just walked out. And I walked out because I felt like I had seen my friend die. My brother. And selfishly, these thoughts come in your head, and it's impossible not to think about. My wife was pregnant, and I was about to be out of a job, and I had nothing. And I didn't know how I was going to even be able to show up or attempt to work again or be funny again. I just saw probably one of the funniest guys I know dead in front of me. The guy I just talked to, the guy I just had an awesome conversation with in the bathroom that told me he believed in me. The guy that just got engaged, the guy that literally had half his life still ahead of him, just gone like that. No warning, no nothing. And that's why I felt like, man, why didn't we see that? That was the hardest plane ride back ever, because you shouldn't ever go on a trip with friends and come back -1. His seat was there. His luggage, we had to go get his luggage. That was the only time I have ever turned down a picture. I remember we landed. I was first one off, and I just wanted to get home. We were told, don't answer any calls, don't talk to anybody, wait till we notify his family. And I remember thinking, okay. And from taking off to landing, somebody said something. Somebody was out of hospital. If anybody did, it was probably out. Mark Cuban had Mark Cuban had tweeted, and like, it was almost like I felt like everybody knew and they were pitying us. And so I was walking through Love Field Airport just with my head down, and I got tapped, and it was a lady, and she goes, JC, big fan of the show. And I'm not in a good place. And I go, thank you. She goes, can I have a picture? And I'm clearly crying. And I go, I can't. She goes, what? I can't do a picture. She goes, oh, I didn't know you guys were going to be such jerks like that or something. Yeah. I get it. She was upset because I listen all the time. And this is how you guys do it. Yeah. And I go, and all I said was, you'll understand. I'm so sorry. And I just kept walking, and I went straight home. I walked in and to my house, and Kenny was there with Kason. I just hugged her and I cried. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to support this little boy and this little girl that's about to be born in like a week, 2 weeks? I don't know when she's born. She's coming. How am I going to support these kids and my wife? And I just literally told my wife, you can quit working. We got the TV show. You don't have to go back to work. I did it. I freaking did it.
World exploded.
Bro, it was, man, it was, I just felt lost. I didn't know what to do. Then business side kicks in, and it's like, hey, our boss is like, I'm flying in. I'm going to go talk to the managers in the suits. And like, whoa, dude, like, do we not get a moment to process? No, you guys go home and just, sit tight. And we'll figure this out. And that was Saturday. Sunday came around, and I'm getting calls from like CNN. I'm getting calls from like everywhere, and they just want a word, and we're told don't talk. And so I just shut my phone down, and I'm thinking, am I going to work tomorrow? Like, can I go to work tomorrow? And so we just all called each other and said, I think we should. I think we created a family on the radio, and we didn't know who was going to take over or what was going to happen, but we're all going to show up and at least be there for a little bit because
Be together.
be together. And we showed up to the studio and there was people outside. And on my way in, I got hugs from like 100 people just with candles and vigils. And we went in there, man, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Because it was different. Just driving into that garage to park was tough. Walking down those stairs was tough. Walking into the studio, and I'm not going to put him on front, but Kidd used to smoke cigarettes. And so I could tell when Kidd was there based on it. It's like the cigarette smell wasn't there. And I hated cigarette smells. And that morning I longed for it. It was not there. And I just remember thinking this might be the last time I step foot in the studio. It's over. It's gone.
Wow.
There's no way these people are going to give us a shot without Kidd Kraddick. It's like you lost Michael Jordan. You lost Tom Brady. You lost the greatest person on your team. And you guys are definitely not going to be able to go anywhere. It was heavy. And I went back and they told us, why don't you guys go ahead and take the time off? And George was my boss, was working so freaking hard behind the scenes, man. That guy.
Special human.
If it weren't for him, that we absolutely would have been fired. And I started getting calls from other markets like, hey, man, you want to come back to San Diego? You want to? And I'm thinking like, that's the last thing I want to think about right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this show is even going. Like, I'm trying to process everything. And I get a call from George and says, I talked to Kelly and she says, because we're thinking maybe she would be the host and she thinks you should do it. And I go, okay. He goes, yeah. So, when you guys go back on air, you step in there.
You're the guy.
I go, okay. All right. So here's the keys, dude. Good luck.
Wow.
And that next day on Tuesday at night, on Monday night, I remember telling Kelly and Jenna, they were like, we can't come in. And Al hit me up and he goes, can you sleep? And I go, I haven't been able to sleep. Just been crying. He goes, what do we do? I said, do you want to just go in together? Just me and you? And he goes, I go, maybe that'll help with negotiations. And we let Jenna and Kelly grieve and hopefully then we can grieve. And he goes, yeah, let's do that. So me and Al, we went in Tuesday and Wednesday, I think by ourselves. And we just took calls from people. I don't really remember much.
Yeah.
And that next Monday, it was go. They gave us a 30-day extension. You have 30 days to prove that you guys could do a show. Okay. Well, they weren't feeling me. So they started saying, well, maybe we can fly this guy in and try. And so they flew in guys to try to do a chemistry test with us and be the host. And nothing clicked. And by the 30th day, we basically were at the point of, this is the product you have or nothing.
Yeah.
And the ratings were obviously high because curiosity and people were supporting us. And they gave us like a couple months and we stayed strong. So they said, okay, let's do the rest of the year. We stayed strong. And then it was almost like when Kidd told me, I'm phasing you out. We were every day waiting to get told, okay, it's done. We're done. And it never happened. And then George got us our first contract and then our second one. And
fast forward, how many years now has it been?
Yeah, he died in 2013. So this will be the 12th year. So it's been 11 years.
So I know you think about Kidd every day, and I'm sure you talk to him constantly, and he's watching you. But if you could say anything to him right now, what would you tell him?
Thank you.
It's beautiful,
man. Because this is what sucks about people dying. Now I say everything I feel. I didn't tell him I love you enough. I told him I was appreciative and I was thankful and glad, but I didn't say I love you. I should have more often. I just told him he saved my life, bro.
Special man.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your heart, bro. It's not easy, man.
Yeah, that was tough.
And I know for you to do so on the air has been a huge credit to, one, your courage and your heart, but also why people, I believe, still believe in and have grown the Kidd Kraddick family.
Yeah.
You know? It's pretty special, man.
It is. He started it all, man, but he truly did. He absolutely saved me. I know Al probably has the same thing to say, and so does Kelly, because everything I have now in my life, aside from my wife and my kids, is because of him.
Yeah, special. I know he loves Kinsey. I know he's proud of you, bro.
Oh, yeah, he loved Kinsey.
You were an incredible host on the radio, incredible at your job, but you're a way better husband and father. And I get the privilege of being in your life and getting to witness that, the success that you are in every phase, and how you've rewritten the story, man. And your kids, they're not going to know. I mean, kids are kids. There'll be stuff, but they're not going to know the same type of pain because you have nurtured them and protected them and showed them the love, you know? Well, bro, I appreciate you, man. Your heart is bigger than the state of Texas. And thanks for being so raw with us today, man. If there's anything that you'd say to this audience, people that are looking for a nugget, man, that's like, I needed to hear that today. Any last thoughts?
No, man, just, again, tell the people you love them when you have a chance. I tell that to everybody. I don't scream it loud. I do that with you all the time when we do it. But you never know. Life is so fragile, and it can be taken away from you so fast. Those who you love could be taken away from you so fast that you don't want to go in. You don't want to go the day that they're gone and go, I wish I would have. You want to say, I'm glad I did. So take those moments, and if you're going to fight, make it right as fast as you can. Yeah. Don't let it simmer.
Well, I love you, bro.
Love you too, man.
Thankful for you, dog.
Me too.